And we are live. Welcome to the Political Orphans. My name is Nico and I am your in house conservative. To my left is Rob Ambrose, our token lefty, and together we review what's in the news. Our goal is simple. We want to show you that it's possible for a lefty and a righty to get along. And if we disagree, you know what we do? We have a conversation like normal human beings. Because never forget that common sense has no political affiliations. What's going on, guys?
How's it going, brother? Still sleeping off that election hangover, I think. But we got had some time to digest it, and yeah, I think that's what we're going to be talking about today. Jason, how's she going, brother?
I'm going good. Like I said, life is hard in the mean streets of Hermosa Beach, California. And this morning I found myself white knighting for Joe Rogan and just dismissing fact from fiction. So
Really, eh?
there's an old saying: the lie gets around the world twice before the truth hits the front door. And when you repeat it enough times, right? MAGA guy, right wing guy, and I'm just like, the guy supports universal basic income, same-sex marriage, Medicare for all. He's like the worst MAGA guy ever.
Except for guns, it's really hard to see abortion as well. Like he's pro-abortion, right? So except for guns, it's really hard to see him find any position that he's actually right-wing on.
I'd also like to point out, like, they need to stop pretending that he betrayed the Green Party or betrayed Republicans or betrayed this person. Like Nico just said in the beginning of this podcast, critical thinking is not a team sport. You gotta, right? But how about be a person,
Yeah. Jason, let me ask you this as because we're definitely going to speak about what's next for Canada because, man, it's a mess. Like it's it's a very, very interesting situation right now in Canada, and it seems that our prime minister is not backing down from going to war with the US, like economy war, obviously, because in a one-on-one fight we don't stand a fucking chance.
Well, no.
But he is going for the economic warfare, and as a guy that spends a lot of time in the US, I'm a big fan of Americans. Like, they're like our big brothers, right?
We love them back, man.
But the sentiment seems to be very divided. Like, it's just insane to me that Canadians are this divided. Like, I don't know that I'm that surprised by the election results, but see, exactly. There you go. Thank you, Woot. That's exactly my point, and this is the whole goal of today's show. Woot says, I need this post-election therapy. And this is exactly how I've been feeling for the past 24 hours. But, as we figure out what's next for Canada, I definitely don't want us to be shitting on our relationships with the US. So from your side, as somebody that is in California, what's the reaction to the Canadian election? Like, how are you guys seeing it? Yeah.
Well, there is a reaction because we know, like, if this economic war continues, that we know it's going to be equivalent to like a real war, and the people that are going to suffer are the ones that don't make a lot of money, the people who are living check to check, the person who's $600 away from or a medical emergency from actually being broke, right? That's almost 2/3 of our country living from check to check, no work, no check, and very much like war, you got these handful of people that disagree on something, and hundreds of thousands of people have to suffer the consequences. So that's what's going on in America. But I'd like to have a bounce back question for you guys. In America, the last 3 elections, the Democrats have played this something we call the existential threat strategy. Like, like we got screwed. I personally thought we got screwed with Bernie. I thought Bernie got shafted. I mean, whatever you may think of him, your political lens saw, even in Canada, saw what was going on. I briefed Rob on what superdelegates was, right? I give you an education on what superdelegates was, which is insane. So my question is, and I'm flabbergasted by this, because for 3 elections, they played the existential threat game and lost 2 out of 3. And if you're a really big conspiracy theorist, you thought they lost all 3. And in Canada, we have this rolling opposite effect. Like, do you want, if you don't elect him, Trump's gonna win. I understand. I don't want you to relive this bad experience from the last 2 days. Explain to me how that worked.
I mean, and we talked about this a lot yesterday, how the theme of the election, especially the way the Liberals ran the campaign, was fear. And to me, that's a very American style way to campaign. I've observed that in American politics for at least several decades now. And fear, on both sides. Like, I think that the Democrats used, a very cynical fear, like the way that they would always hang over their heads. You got to vote for us because the Republicans are going to come after abortion. They're going to come after abortion. Meanwhile, they had plenty of opportunities to actually codify abortion into law so that they could not go after abortion. And they didn't want to do that because then they would lose that ability to hang it over their neck, over their head. And of course, we see what happened. Eventually, Roe did get taken down. So very, very cynical way to conduct politics. And I saw that in this election, and typically you don't see that in Canadian politics as much. But I saw it in this one, and it was all about fear. It was all about Poilievre is Trump, or he's basically the second, the Canadian Trump, which is of course nonsense. They did everything they could to say a vote for Poilievre is a vote for Trump. Again, of course, it's nonsense. And Poilievre, for his part, didn't do enough to distance himself from that narrative. But yeah, even in Carney's acceptance speech, it seemed to my ear it was about, our relationship with Americans will never be the same. He said, Americans, they want our land. Like, I would even say if he wanted to say Trump wants our land, it's still fear-mongery, but okay. But the way he's now shifted the battlegrounds to all of America, and I see that as very dangerous. It is not at all in our interest as Canadians to have the American people believe that we are their enemy.
And here's a great comment. Like, this is one, I agree completely with Rob's assessment. Like, we spoke about this yesterday, and it's all about fear. Carney played the fear game, as in Trump is here to basically get rid of us. Like, Canada will not exist because Trump, if we don't stand up to Trump, Canada's done. That's basically the message that he's been saying. So that's the Liberal Party, the PM in power, that was saying that. Now, if you take a comment from Lee Jett right now, she is bang on. So she's basically saying that I feel like the division of Canada is a direct result of the paid mainstream media propaganda. All Canadians have been hoodwinked. Some of us have found our way out of that, but many have not. And I agree with her 1,000%.
Wow.
Like the people on, and by the way, Lee, never seen you before, but you fit right in. This type of intelligent comment is what we live for. So bang on this one. And I agree, this is also what happened. Like, even when we're covering the election, Rob and I are sharing the stream in background of CBC, which is the propaganda arm of the Liberal Party. Like, they claim to be unbiased, to be for the people media, yet they receive $1.4 billion every year because they can't survive. They can't produce more than 500 million. So we need to support mainstream media, unbiased mainstream media, right?
Trust us.
During the election, they were reporting some new polling that just came out. And you know what the girl said? She said, we only need another 12 seats to win a majority. Not the Liberal Party needs another 12 seats to win. We need another 12 seats. And they claim to be unbiased. Like, I stopped the feed as I said that. I'm like, Rob, did you hear that? It's like, what?
Yeah.
And
it was wild.
Even him, he's like,
to be honest, I didn't even hear it. You're so used to hearing that kind of talk from the media. I was ear blind to it. And what was,
can I say something about Lee, the response?
Yep.
Lee, I don't know if you're American or Canadian, but you are bang on, because in America, I asked what the difference was, and she answered the question foundationally, because in America, we have independent media on YouTube and on Twitter and on, Twitch or whatever, and this and that. And mainstream media was saying one thing, we were saying another thing. And America decided, because of independent media. We started this podcast talking about Joe Rogan. He's the most dangerous man in America because he's like, I'm voting for Trump. And then 2 months later, he's shitting on Trump about due process. Like, he had this viral fuck around and find out due process clip. So he's the first one to say, hey, why are we funding Israel? Hey, what's up with this war in Ukraine? You say you're going to end it in 24 hours. So you don't want someone as dangerous as what I'm saying, as politically homeless or an orphan like that controlling in America. And she was. I'll end by this because I thought she was bang on. I think Canada is more influenced by corporate media. In America, we call it corporate media because now mainstream media is YouTube. It's us. It's the orphan.
Yeah. And I think in the media, the American media landscape, I do believe that alternate media, the podcast, the Joe Rogans, that's been more built out now. In Canada, it's still in its infancy.
Right.
And to an extent that, we on this show, like, we're trying to help do our part to build that out here in Canada. But by and large, there really primarily is just that mainstream media. There's not any alternate, and you can see it in the voting patterns. It's not a coincidence that the demographic, which is the boomers, 65 plus, that primarily gets their news from mainstream media, they are the ones that voted almost in unison. And it was for the Liberal Party. Everyone else, every other demographic except for them went conservative. So it's,
Man, America would love to have the censorship that Canada had. We're just out of control voting for who we want to,
Yeah.
But the part that we need to add that's completely different from the US is, although I don't believe in mainstream media, I still look at it every day to get a sense of what's going on. But at the same time, I'm fully aware of their biases, right? Left, right, center, they all have a message to push. Unfortunately, in Canada, we don't have mainstream media from the right side. So in the US, you do have your Fox on one side and you have CNN on the other, right? And they're always repeating the same thing. You can clearly tell that they have their own agenda. Unfortunately, in Canada, we don't have that. We barely have a few places like Rebel News or Juno News, but they're self-funded. Like they're just small companies that started by people like us sitting here right now, but they're not mainstream. They don't have millions or $500 million of money streaming in. They're not everywhere with massive studio like CBC. So on one side, you have the CBC, you have the Radio-Canada, you have the CTV, which is all the news that Canadians get, and they're all paid by the government. We don't have something on the other side that's as big, competing directly with them. So for the people that are above 60 that still have a cable subscription, that still watch TV to get their news, they never get exposed to the other side because, as well as I do, the algorithm of whatever social media you're on is always going to push what you're looking at.
Yeah, well, you already believe.
You're not going to start seeing Rebel News showing up on your feed out of nowhere. You're not. You're only going to see the CTV, the CBC.
Not going to help you.
Yeah. We don't see that divide and you saw it in the way Pierre Poilievre ran his campaign too. He didn't run like a conservative. He ran like a leftist with a bit of a fiscal sense that the Liberals don't have. But outside of that, there's no difference because he's not against abortion. He's not against gay rights. He's not against taking anything away. So there's no difference between our conservative and our liberal. And I'm not saying that a conservative should take gay rights away. That's not what I'm saying. But, in the US, there is a very strong divide between your left and your right, which leaves a lot of space for the middle to exist and just say, what the fuck are you guys doing?
And that was sorry.
But in Canada, it doesn't exist. If you're in the center, that means you're a right wing.
Yeah.
Because there's no such thing as right on our side. All we have is you have the left, you have the middle, you have the right. Everything we have is in the left, and our conservative are on the right side of left.
Right.
Like our conservative in the US would be considered Democrats.
Right. But
sorry, go ahead.
But you do see the dynamic of them pushing the middle out of the stratosphere. Like in America, we thought like banning people on Twitter, and this was an attack on our right. But if you actually look at the people that were being banned, or the people that they went after, like Russell Brand is a progressive, right? Jimmy Dore is a left-leaning progressive. I can go on. Joe Rogan, RFK, right? So what they were trying to do is they were staging it like we're attacking the right, but they could have attacked the right the last 20 years anytime they wanted to. But this is a head fake because they're like, we can't have the right and independence on the same side. We're going to lose. And that's, and that was the,
Yeah, and just to add on to what Nico was saying, I think, and yeah, of course, bias exists in the media in the States. I think it's a little easier to navigate because we all know where the biases are. I think with the CBC, they genuinely seem to believe that they don't have a bias, and I think it's so ingrained that again, they didn't think twice about saying "we" when we're talking about the Liberal Party, or the part where the results started coming in for Charlottetown, and the CBC anchor was visibly released. Was like, oh, thank God, there's Charlottetown's basically. What did they say? At least Charlottetown's got their.
It's still liberal.
They're still right. Or, it's like at least there's nothing wrong with Charlottetown, kind of thing. And it's just they don't even realize the bias that they have, to the extent that again, what Nico was talking about, that lack of a center. It's almost like an identity crisis. I think the left in Canada believes they're the center. They think that they are the mainstream position, and that's why this almost seems like politics are a bit more schizophrenic up here, because no one really knows where they are. I mean, I feel like people like us were able to take a more of a bird's eye accurate view of the state of politics. But we also come about a bit of humility too, right? Like we're also aware we might not be right. We don't have all the answers. But anytime I see like the left, like they think they are absolutely correct on every fucking issue. And if you don't agree with them, you aren't just wrong. You're morally wrong, right? You're a bad person. And that's really, I mean, I am a liberal, I'm a lefty. But that's the kind of stuff that is just such poison on the left right now. And that's one of my sort of side goals to do this show, is to try to bring awareness to that on the left and to do what I can to sort of push some reform. Just before we go any further, guys, I just wanted to
before you go, and you're the perfect example because you didn't even catch it. This is the point, right? You didn't even catch what she said because you're so
it was like didn't even hear.
That's my point. Like we caught it live. As soon as she said it, I'm like, "What the fuck did you just say?"
Because I didn't hear. I was like, really? It's no way. And then we rewound it, and fuck, she did. I bet she didn't catch it either. I bet she didn't even know she said it.
She exposed herself, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, if you are watching here, remember to smash that like button and share. If you're following us from X, please share or retweet the stream. If you are following for YouTube, because we're actually getting quite a bit more YouTube viewers lately, please remember to subscribe. If you feel as we do that there's a place for a podcast like this, if you're if you want to just kind of go to the podcast where there's bomb throwers and the other side is the enemy, and you just want people to tell you what you already believe, this ain't that show. There's a million of those shows.
Yes, it is. There's room for them too.
Well, yeah. But like,
it's your show. I'm not trying to tell you what's up, but
Rob is saying that this is not an echo chamber,
right?
Yeah, it's not an echo chamber here. Exactly.
Not the right place.
Right.
Because we will challenge your views, right? I will challenge Rob. I'll challenge you. I'll challenge anybody in the comments, and I expect them to do the same.
Yep. Or you can say absolutely nothing to them. They can hang around and listen, and maybe they flip, right? Yeah. I mean, there's no way of preaching unity and having everybody understand if you're just going to shun people. Now, Nico, what you're talking about is blatant disrespect, and people do that. Then you shouldn't have anything to do with them, and I get that, but
you're still allowed to do it. Yeah. I'm so used to it. This is what I get every day. I'm used to it. So. But at the same time, man, you can insult me all you want. I won't do the same. But how many people have I changed their minds, at least opened their mind to listen just because I didn't attack back? So even if you feel like leaving a comment, even if you make sure to subscribe, like Rob is saying, and even if you just subscribe to bash me, all good, bro.
I still think you're nuts. You changed my mind. Even on this show, I think Nico's off his rocker. But you know what? He converted me.
One thing I've noticed about this show is, I mean, as we're getting more and more followers, you do get the trolls come in. And I think sometimes people come in here and just be trollish right away. But then if you kind of engage with them like a normal person and just be like, no, we don't really, that's not really how we do things. A lot of times they kind of like, oh, okay, well then here's my position and blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden it's like, so, and when I see that stuff, I love it because it's exactly what we're trying to create with this space.
And as the show gets bigger, there's going to be more of that.
Of course there are.
There's some people you just got to skip. Like Monday, the comments section, just
It was
absolutely
on
blew up.
fire.
And I
It
know
was
you
on
guys
fire.
try to accommodate and read every comment. You just, as you get bigger, you just can't, right?
You're not going to be able to.
And it's
Yeah.
super chat
Bro,
supported. So
there
if
was
people pay,
like
like if people pay for the super chat,
Yes.
yeah, that's a priority. And I feel like we're supposed to be talking about this off camera. And we're like on the air.
no, but the whole point of this show, and this is what we were talking about, Rob and I, before this episode, is the whole point, like today, is really to engage with you guys.
Yeah. It
So
takes,
people in
yeah.
the comment section, I feel I it's hard for me to believe what just happened over the election. I didn't really see it coming yet. I saw it coming. It's still surprising to me to see how divided we are. And it left a bad taste in my mouth. It's been
Yeah.
there since we covered the election 2 days ago. I'm literally in BC, probably the most beautiful place in Canada right now. I'm looking at mountains, lakes, and forests right there. I'm still bothered by what happened. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that feel the exact same. So, guys, if you're not used to this show, the whole point is for us to engage with you. We want
Yep,
to hear what you
absolutely.
have to say.
Right.
We won't even show one single video if you guys keep commenting. We're just going to keep on engaging. That's the point. We want to know how you feel about this today, because it's hard for us to say that it wasn't a historical election.
Oh, it absolutely was.
What's coming is going to change the face of Canada. And I don't think that a lot of people on the East actually understand what's going on, what's been bubbling behind the scene for the past 10 years. And this is something that we weren't even aware. I'm from Quebec, spent half my life in Ontario, half my life in Quebec. Now I spent half my time in the US. So I'm very politically savvy, yet I did not realize how bad it was going, how a good portion of Canada felt about the rest of Canada. So
Yeah.
we really want to open the discussion to you guys to tell us, how do you feel about this election? Like,
Yeah.
how do you feel now? It's been 24 hours. You've had time to sit down and just, you know what, let's try to figure out what comes next. But how do you feel about the election? Like,
Yep.
whatever comes to mind, just let us know how you feel.
Yeah, and so I'll just take this comment here from Robin. She said, "You guys, your channel just popped up. I'm observing quietly. We appreciate that, Robin. Thank you for tuning in.
Robin. Let's go.
Don't be quiet though. Have an opinion. We want to
As
hear
Nico
it.
said, guys, this show, you know, we talk about the politics of the day, the issues of the day, but at the end of the day, it is first and foremost meant to be an audience participation show. That is why we do it live. This is for you guys to engage with us. If you agree with us, let us know. If you don't, let us know. Especially as long as you show your work, there's a place for every opinion here.
Right.
We all talk respectfully. That is, we're trying to create a space that doesn't really exist. Well, I mean, sometimes me and Jason get into it, but like,
oh, we're never disrespectful though. It's
yeah.
Rob is my dog, man.
Yes, sir. Sylvie says, "Good afternoon, Nico and Robbie. I have to run, but I wanted to say hello and keep up the good work." Thanks for that, Sylvie. We appreciate it.
Yes, Sylvie, appreciate it. You know, Rob, as you continue to read the comment section,
No, you go ahead. I'll
I have
take
a question for you.
Yes.
In 2012, when Obama beat Romney, this is an American perspective, there was shock because the Republicans were sure Romney was going to win. But then after the shock subsided, there was an honest self-examination. And the question was, have we become the stupid party? Right? We've become the stupid party, right? And when the Democrats lost to Donald Trump in 2016, they just grieved for an entire week. They went on Saturday Night Live. Some girl's crying on the piano.
They said they took that as proof. They took that as proof that the other guys are the stupid party.
And no self-examination.
No,
and
not even here in 2024 either.
I think I speak for all three of us and many people in the comment section. And I'm speaking as a leftist. Okay, the pandemic was the reason Trump didn't win the second term. I'm just gonna throw my nuts out there, and say that. And it's because they have not self-examined. There's 3 elections in a row. They're just saying they're basically saying we might suck, but we're not him.
Exactly.
And I'm asking, and I'm bringing this up for a reason. Do you think there's a chance that conservatives in Canada, after this grieving is happening, because it's Wednesday and it's still happening, people are still a little salty.
Yep.
Will there be a self-examination? Not in terms of are we the stupid party, or do we get ahead of the game by promoting people's star power? Because star power wins presidencies too, right?
Yep. Charisma.
The Republicans got a fucking game show host, right? A C student that went to Yale whose daddy was president, and a fucking B-level actor, Ronald Reagan, right? Those are their last 3 of their last 4 presidents. None of them were what we would consider bright, though Trump is very underrated. Yeah, only H.W. Bush was what you would consider smart.
Smart.
So,
yeah. That's right.
But you got to. I mean, so I'm gonna leave that question with you.
But you're bang on, Jason. We talked about this yesterday, and you couldn't have seen it the better way. Like, you're absolutely bang on, because there's a lot of blame that's going around right now. As the conservative on this show, the C conservative, like small conservative, because I don't represent the Conservative Party. They're not real conservatives. They need to step their game up and actually take their rightful place to the right. But I couldn't agree with you more. Like, they need to self-examine what went wrong, because they went in with a 20 points lead and lost. It is insane. They literally came in, remember Trump against
Joe Biden? It was huge. It was big. It was January. In January, it was 20 points.
It was literally, you could look at what happened to Trump, when Trump was dominating Biden before they replaced him with Kamala Harris. It was like low 50s for Trump, high 30s for Biden. This is what the polls were showing. It was the same thing in Canada. They flipped Kamala Harris, but they replaced Biden by Kamala Harris. And then overnight, went to 50. And then it stayed like that the whole time, right? But the polls were completely wrong because Trump dominated Kamala Harris. It wasn't close. Yeah. But in Canada, it did the same thing. Poilievre was dominating Trudeau. Trudeau got replaced by Carney, 50-50. Bit more for Carney, bit more for Poilievre, but it stayed very equal the whole way through. Yep. And then on election night, you're like, damn, because it's close. If you look, you're within a couple percent of the popular vote.
Very close, yeah.
So it's just that major cities won over rural areas, right? Similar to what happens to the US. But the big problem that I'm seeing right now on the conservative side is that they are blaming. So this is the irony. Carney ran his whole campaign on fear of Trump, like TDS syndrome, just like who said it earlier? Just like Wood said. It's all TDS. Like he said it, it's all TDS. So, Carney ran his campaign on TDS, saying Trump is the worst thing that's going to ever happen. He's the Antichrist, basically, right? It's all his fault. It's all his fault. Just don't mention the fact that it's 10 years of liberal that has destroyed our economy. But the problem is that now I'm seeing the conservatives. So Carney ran his campaign on fear of Trump. Now that he won, the packer of Pierre Poilievre, the conservative, I'm not saying Pierre Poilievre himself, but the people that voted for him are like, it's because of Trump that Carney won. So there's TDS going on right now on both sides of the equation. Now, was he an impact? Of course he had an impact. He's the president of the most popular country on the planet. Of course he had an impact. But Pierre Poilievre had all the chances to stand up for something and show what he meant, what he stood for. He had the chance. He stepped up to the plate, and he didn't even. He literally chucked the bat and didn't do anything. I'm not even sure he stepped up to the plate. But the point is that they need to reevaluate. What you said is bang on. Yes, Trump had an impact, no questions about it. But at the same time, come on, you cannot blow a 20 points lead and blame it all on somebody else, because you're no better than Carney. Carney blames Trump for everything. Now you're blaming your loss on Trump. So what's the difference here? You have TDS, and that's why you lost? Like, come on.
I agree. I think that if anything, I do think, to answer Jason's question, I do think the conservatives probably will have that introspection. But if something prevents it, it's going to be that. It's going to be the ability from them saying, "Oh, it was Trump." And then we're going to take some of these comments, because some of these are really, really good. As
take some of the comments. I need to go to the bathroom.
And before I'll go back and get them in order. But I just want to jump to this one here. PC Police says, "I voted Liberal. I can discuss. I might be labeled a troll and kicked out. You will not be labeled a troll and kicked out just because you voted Liberal. I am a Liberal. I'm a progressive. This is a place for everyone's opinions." And
glad Nico left on that one.
Yeah, exactly. So I did vote Conservative, and we'll talk about that here in a second. But this is a place for everybody. The one underlying thing, well, a couple. One, we approach everything with common sense. We speak to each other respectfully, and most of us are disgusted one way or the other with the state of politics today.
Right. So and by the way, Rob's a liberal too. So so there can be some nuance and an honest discussion. Also, I'm the American here. and I lean more left than right. So
If you're in the comments,
yes,
Jason is
stick
NY
around
Varsity
because I'm
Sports.
always
Yeah,
Rob.
he's-
Like
he's a-
I'm always inherently curious, right? I'm
Exactly,
nosy, like
right?
I'm nosy like that.
For me, honestly, it's about getting it right. Like, of course, we all have our opinions, we all have our biases, but I just want to get every issue right. And if someone makes a persuasive case, I'm gonna say, yeah, okay, that makes sense. And I've had my mind changed several times on this
Right.
show, and I believe I've probably changed a couple minds once or twice too. And that's essentially what this show is all about.
I would also suggest that everyone that won in America ran for something and not against something. Right.
Yeah.
Obama ran for change. Obama ran for the American Affordable Health Care Act. He ran on closing Gitmo, which never happened, by the way. But, freedom. You understand what I'm saying? Ending wars. He ran for something. So I guess my other question, and please skip me for the comment section because they deserve their floor too.
Yeah.
Did the liberals run for something?
They tried not to lose.
Or was it both of them?
They were
just
way too
run
safe.
You
against something
mean
and
the
it was a
conservatives?
Right.
You mean
The conservatives?
right?
Yeah.
Right. That's
you mean no, the actual liberals? They ran on fear. It was Trump. Polyev is the Canadian Trump, and you need me to stand up to Trump because Trump's
100%.
the dictator. He's going to invade the country. He wants us. He wants this land, and it was all fear.
Yeah, 100%.
We're gonna
right.
Nico. We're gonna have differing opinions in the comment section on that theory as to why the liberals.
But this is but again, this is the whole point, right? Yesterday, when we ran, we were talking about politics, obviously, as we do every day. But we had a lot of people that disagreed with, especially me, in the way that I assess the Conservative Party.
Yep.
But that's great. That's what I want. I want to have discourse. That's the whole point. We need to be able to enable conversations between the left and the right, but also the right within themselves, either the left within themselves. So I welcome the comments. Good, bad. You agree, you disagree.
Yeah, exactly.
Also,
and something,
and we'll talk about it.
Something we say on here a lot is, we're not just trying to create a podcast, we're trying to create a community. And I have to say, especially lately, it's really, really gone in that direction. I can't say how happy I'm to see that. So we'll get some of these. So Robin says, I was devastated by the results. I worked so hard for my conserve campaign in my area. We turned it in. I was NDP for 40 years, but I was crushed. We lost federally. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are really pretty upset about it. And there's obviously, there's a lot of liberals out there who are happy with it, but it's, it's always that, and that's why I think Nico suggested this episode today, because you always want to take some time after an election. These are emotional events, right? And I think 24 to 48 hours after is probably your best time to sort of take stock, see where we got. We're going to talk after we take these comments. We'll probably segue into some of the subtopics of the issues.
The aftermath. Yeah.
The aftermath, specifically sort of what's going on in Alberta and what's next for them, because we think that's going to be a very important topic over the next couple of months. And we'll get to that in a few minutes. But yeah, Robin.
Before you change this, Robin, you did a great job. If you participated, you had your voice heard, you did what you had to do. And I'm sure you said campaign, not champagne.
Yeah.
Although wherever you are, maybe it's late enough for you are already drinking champagne.
Yeah.
Good for you. But
we call them mimosas in California.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah, but in Canada, we're not that gay. We actually don't need to mix our champagne. What I was going to say is that
sure you're not.
The Quebecers saying we're not that gay. Sure.
Sorry, I had an Eddie Murphy flashback.
Whatever you say, Jean.
He did this comedy skit where in the 80s the doctor said, Mr. Johnson, you have AIDS. He's like, AIDS, but I ain't no homosexual. And the doctor goes, sure you're not a homosexual.
Yep. Calling a spade, right? But what I was going to say is you have to look, the liberals barely changed. I think they have just a couple more seats. Like they barely changed. They just kept the same amount of seats. Some places obviously shifted because people went from NDP to liberal, but at the same time, the Conservative won something like 30 new seats. So the work that you've done actually pushed the needle towards the Conservative. And if you look at the map of Canada, it has changed to blue. Like there's a lot of red,
especially Western Canada. Yeah.
Oh, Western Canada is literally blue. But even in, when we're doing the live coverage of the election, we could see the East. like they were switching and switching and switching. And so for Robin, this is my opinion, and tell me what you think about it. But if Polyev would have been more of a conservative, would have been ready to step up and talk about men and women's sport, like something super simple as all of his base agrees that men have no place in women's sports. He didn't approach that. He didn't talk about the crime rate under the Liberal Party, how during the Conservative, it was going down, it went back up under the Liberal. And now we are here. The GDP, same thing. He didn't talk enough about the economy, how we grown 1% over the past 10 years, while the Americans grown 19 to 21%, somewhere in there. So they grew 20 times what we did in the past 10 years. And this is all correlated to Trudeau taking power, because until then, the Americans and Canadians were head to head when it came to GDP. So this is my point, right? He tried not to lose instead of taking 5 topics and banging the drum.
Yeah, you got to hit it again and again and again and again. That chart, that GDP chart, should have been stapled to his forehead, and every time he talked, he should have been out there. And I think, because I think one thing to take away from like what you're saying is like there was actually several different paths he could have taken that think all like the one you said where he kind of just ran more as a conservative probably would have done it, or he could have gone through one another way and just attacked Carney much more on just bread and butter issues, the economy, crime. Didn't hear that either. We saw this great ad on Friday. It came in as we were, and Nico was like, I haven't seen this. This just came on on the radar, but let's see it. And when the ad was done, we were like, where the fuck was that? Like, where? Because it was a great ad. Started with a guy that was straight out of Central Casting. Like, yeah, that motherfucker's a criminal. Just look at him. And then and he was a real person. And it told the story of how he had been committing crimes, let out of jail on, very low bail, and then committing more violent crimes. And then it showed the Liberal policies in writing for exactly how the policies that resulted in this. And then it showed the chart, showed violent crime has been spiking hard.
Same chart I've been showing for weeks.
Spiking hard since 2015. I mean, that stuff, that resonates. And there's a lot, he just dropped the ball in a lot of ways.
Or refused to pick it up.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I think it's both. I think he had the ball, he fumbled, and he looked at it like, hey, that's a ball.
He was paralyzed. Speaking, if fear was the theme of the Liberal campaign, it also was the theme in the other direction for Polyev, because he was just afraid to win, basically, or so afraid to not lose that he ended up losing.
He could have simply ran on. He could have taken those 3 topics, right? Economy, men and women's sport,
and crime.
Our
crime.
GDP,
all
our
winners.
GDP, crime, and then his 4th one could have simply been, I want to unite this country. I will not do what Carney is doing, trying to label everybody else that don't believe what he believes as evil. I just want to reunite our country. Can you imagine if that's all he talked about? Economic, GDP, violence, and just say, guys, we need to become Canadian again. This is what Canada's about. Let's unify. Let's stop the division. Can you imagine? That's it. Those 4 things, he would have smoked
and
everybody
honestly,
in the polls.
And 3 of those 4 things would have been enough to sway the independent parties, the parties away from
the left-leaning people like myself.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I was just going to say, and other liberals, right?
Yep.
But not only that, he could have been he would have been able to sway me, possibly to vote for him, because I didn't vote for him.
No, they have to earn your vote.
I cannot vote. I cannot vote. For me, voting for Pierre Poilievre was voting for the Liberal Party, literally, because I think he's a liberal. So I can't vote for that. But at the same time, maybe if he banged those like that, those 4 drums, he just said that for a full month, I would have been fuck. Maybe I can.
Well, 3 of those 4 drums, like, give me the most lefty of leftists. If you have a daughter, you do not want boys playing in girl sports and men playing in women's sports. Any Democrat is going to be like, okay, we had fun with this woke shit, right? But now it's time to come home. Now I use the word woke in the way you guys.
In the way you use it.
Congratulations.
I noticed that.
They're changing you.
But I agree with that.
The economy, stupid, right? It's the economy, stupid. That's a relatable thing for independents, Democrats, and Republicans. What was the 3rd one? Crime. right? You're just trying to go to work. You're in a rat race. You're in your 9 to 5. You're like, I just want to get on a train where I don't think some psychotic is who's talking to himself and swinging in the air wildly is going to hurt me, right? I mean, maybe mental health is more the common denominator, but Nico, you hit it home with just some common denominators that are attracted to all voters. And I'd also like to say that Nico, never sacrifice your virtue. This is something you already know. The whole notion that you owe someone your vote is nonsense. And these people have to fight for your vote. And that's what I'm saying. If they want your vote, come get it.
And that's part of the reassessment that you were talking about, because even this morning I was posting on a very conservative guy's platform. He's a conservative guy.
Right.
And he said, you know what, maybe it's the time to bring it up. I just wanted to show you one thing, because it goes back to what you and I, Rob, have been talking about, how we need a different category when it comes to our voting system in Canada.
Yeah,
something
I like that
will
idea.
show, something that will show that there are people like me out there that simply cannot vote for what's there. It's not because I don't want to vote. It's simply because what is being presented to me are not options that I like. But I will go out of my way to go to the polling station and just say, click little check mark, don't want anybody that's there. Please, and that indicates please do better. And then this is tabulated and it is shared at the end.
I think there's value in that, in knowing what that number is. It would be almost a reference for the disgust of the Canadian electorate.
And see, here's what he said. Like, you guys can see my screen, right?
Yeah,
So he's basically saying that I need to confirm those numbers, but I trust this guy. He's normally pretty solid on his statistic. But he's basically saying that who are the 31st or the 30% of voters who didn't vote? Who are they? Where are they? Why didn't they vote at all? What would get them to vote? How would they vote? The no vote party would be the largest party in Canada.
Well, that's what I mean when I say I think there's value in that, because it's worth knowing that 31%, is that mostly apathetic people who don't give a shit, or is it people who are engaged, who want to vote for someone, but who would go to the polls if they had an option that said none of these motherfuckers, none of the above. And I think, you could see that number every election. If that's going up, one thing that's valuable information. Now we know the state of disgust within the Canadian electorate, and I think it's valuable to know that number.
And what I liked about this guy is that he approached it from a common sense place. He didn't say, who the fuck are those people? Because of them, we lost and blah, blah, blah. Because
exactly.
That's what I'm getting. But see, this is my comment, right? And all I'm saying is I'm a conservative Canadian that couldn't vote for a liberal hiding as a conservative. That's basically my comment. And you can see, like, I've had about 20 comments since then, and people are bashing me, basically saying that I should have still voted, that I gave the win to the liberal. But see, this is where what Jason said earlier, that the Conservative Party need to reassess and realize that conservative, like hardcore conservative like I am, will not vote for a washed down version of conservatism, because we've gone too far left. It's time for us to bring it back to the middle, and you need a conservative to do that. You don't get a lefty. A lefty cannot bring shit to the middle. A conservative has to. So
all right. Okay.
I agree with that. I'll just take a few more of these.
I reject that notion. I think Obama brought a lot of center and Republicans to the middle.
But Obama's not really a lefty, though, do you think?
No, but hold on.
He's a liberal, for sure.
No, but hold on. You guys are talking about American politics. We're not. Canada politics is so different.
Clearly, you guys demonstrated that this election.
You guys have a clearly defined left, right.
Yeah, that's true.
I agree. Guys, Nico, on this very show this morning, I was confused at how you guys won on the existential threat theory. So clearly our politics are different. America tried that 3 times and lost 2 out of 3. And again, if you're down the rabbit hole, there are guys that swear the Democrats lost all 3. I don't. I thought, I thought there was election interference, but I didn't think it was enough to overturn.
To sway it. I agree with that.
So
You want to take those comments?
So
Robbie?
Memorino says, I'm not devastated by the results. It was exactly as I predicted. Also a fairly common one. Now, this one's interesting. Misfit FPS says, I voted conservative, always have, but my vote has always been based on the party's policies. Trump really wasn't an issue. Yeah, I mean, he certainly wasn't an issue for me, but I recognize that he was for a lot of people. I think I don't have a lot of respect for the way those people approach the election. If Trump was, it should have been a non-issue. Trump should not, because if you believe that someone told you that Poilievre is a Canadian Trump, but didn't do any of the research on your own, it didn't have any questioning, and he's saying, okay, well, here's a hypothesis that someone has said. Now I'm going to test that myself and actually listen to what he says. Then, I mean, I don't have a lot of respect for that process. Paul says, actually, Misfit, I'd be curious to say, do you typically vote conservative, or who do you normally vote for?
Always have.
You'll always have. That's right. Always, but based on the party's policies. Yeah, and that's
our
what
education system in Canada is not very good. Sorry,
that's
guys.
what it should be. Yeah.
better than ours.
Paul says the old voted against the future of their kids and grandkids. Great job, Canada. You
100%.
sure showed them how stupid boomers are. Yeah, that's the drum that we've been beating on this for a while. We showed charts showing the generational
ding,
breakdown, and it's pretty stark. You've got it's like fucking Gen X, Gen Z, fucking millennials, all are going pretty strong for conservatives, and then you have the boomers, and they are so hard for the liberals. And we've talked about why that is several times on the show. One of that generation is by far the one that primarily gets their news from mainstream media, so they are susceptible to that bias, and they don't even realize it's a bias. Also, at the same time, it's hard to ignore the fact that I think a lot of boomers are voting for a system that worked for them, and they think it's still in place, but it does not exist anymore. These are people who had, good middle-class jobs, teachers, fucking contractors, financial advisors, and were able to buy a home 20, 30 years ago for $150K. And now that home's worth $1.3 million, and they think they're financial geniuses, and like, well, anyone can do it. If I could do it, anyone can do it. They don't understand the system is not the same anymore. You cannot, on just a regular ass middle-class salary, you cannot buy a home at 21 or 22 anymore and get that kind of appreciation in your home. So there's some people will think that they're trying to fuck us, or they just don't care, and I think there's something to say that. I think I don't think they care enough to actually look into it, but I think they genuinely believe that the system that worked for them still exists, and it does not. And I think that's where the big divide.
But they're going to have a very, very hard awakening, because Carney's already talking about.
But they won't. They won't be here. It'll be us that has that hard awakening.
No, hold on. No, they won't, because Carney's already talking about home equity tax.
Oh, yeah, I saw that.
And this will not impact the people that don't have any homes.
Yeah.
It will only impact the baby boomers that have a massive amount of equity in their house. So they will start to realize once that how they messed up when Carney starts going after their equity, because everything that they believe is attainable for everybody will no longer, it will be shown to them that not only is it not possible, but that dream doesn't belong to you either, because Mr. Carney, the person you voted for, will go tax you, because how else is he supposed to pay for all this free shit that he's been promising? Taxation. And who has money? Old people, and it's called equity. So, bro,
that's where their wealth is. Isn't there?
100%, and it's going to be a very hard awakening for them.
I think Robin says she's looking forward to being part of a Western Alliance. It's time. So that's actually a good segue. And again, we're going to finish the comments before we get into it. But guys, just one thing me and Nico kind of glommed onto is that the topic of Alberta independence, like both of us we kind of surprised, because as Eastern Canadians, we're not in that environment, and I think we both were sort of surprised by the depth of the frustration and how advanced this movement is. And we think that this is going to probably be the defining the defining story in Canadian politics over the next 6 to 12 months. And we also are quite sure that is not going to be touched with a 10-foot pole by the mainstream media. So one thing that we're going to commit to is we're going to cover this story, this Alberta independence story, from a perspective of outsiders. We're not Albertans. We do not have a dog in the fight. Well, except that we're Canadians, so I guess we do. But we don't, we're not going to bring our own, we're not going to push one angle or the other. We're just going to bring all the facts. We're going to cover this story as deeply as anybody, any podcast, any news channel is going to cover this. We're going to have guests. We're going to have experts on here that are going to tell us all about the process, going to tell us what has to happen. So if this is an important story for you, if Alberta independence, and I think it's going to be very quickly an important story for everybody, make sure you, especially make sure you like and follow this podcast, because that's something we're going to cover as deeply as anybody else. So I just wanted to put that
probably more than anybody else, especially from an outsider's perspective, because until 4 months ago, I was aware about.
We're going to be learning at the same time as you guys are, right?
But it's more than that. I've been in touch with so many people from Alberta, and they're starting to explain how deeply cut they've been over the past 10 years, and we haven't been mainstream media is not touching that one with a 10-foot pole, but we will. Not only will we touch it, but we will have experts to talk about it.
We're going to be
we
want
to know what you guys know, because we're not Albertans. We're really not. We just want to make sure that Canada is going to realize that we're going to be hit by a massive baseball bat soon, and I'd rather see the baseball bat come than just clank it right in the back of the head and get knocked out by it, because there's a storm brewing right now, and it's not going to be good for Canada as a whole. If we sit on this, it's not going to be good. So
that's a great point. And I'll make no secret of like the fact, my opinion is I want to keep Canada whole. I do not want Alberta to separate. At the same time, after learning, talking to people like Jason Levine, I have a lot of sympathy for their concerns. I deeply understand the frustration that they feel. And that's why I see our coverage of this story almost as a service, because I think one thing I'm convinced of, we're both convinced of, is most of Canada outside of the West really has no idea this is coming. And what I don't want to see is the very first time they really hear about it is when it's already in process and it's already too late. Now, there are people who say it is already too late. I'm going to hope that it isn't. But I think if nothing else, people need to know about this story. We know the mainstream media is not going to touch it at all. And so if that's an important story for you or people that you know, make sure you send this stream to them.
Comment section's talking about Alberta.
Yeah.
But you have to, because we do have some followers that are from Alberta. But before we continue, guys, there's always a question every day. How do you feel about the election now that 24 hours has passed? How do you feel? What's your gut feeling? Do you still have that salty taste in your mouth? Are you starting to accept the fact that we do have another liberal government, and we will for at least a year, unless there's a vote of non-confidence that comes up as immediately as Parliament opens, which I don't see that happening. But at the same time, guys, we want to know what you feel like right now, because it's been salty in my mouth. And let us know, and make sure, if you've never followed the show, if it's just your first time here, make sure to like, make sure to comment, but make sure to subscribe on YouTube. And if you're on X, make sure to share it. This is the best way to put this stream in front of more people, because you're not going to find this type of discourse anywhere else. That I can promise you.
Yep, absolutely. And there's just, the reason we started the show is a few months back, we got together, common sense lefty, common sense conservative. And we realized, as we talk about these issues, of course we have our own takes, but we actually had a lot more common ground than certainly the media would have us believe. They want us to believe that we are each other's enemies, and we don't believe that's true. So we're here to find common ground on the issues we can, and respectfully disagree on the ones that we can't. But at the same time, we also realize there's no other show like this. There's nobody doing this right now. The common discourse is, it's just trolling the other side, hating on the other side. And we're trying to be something a little bit different. So if you do appreciate that and think there's value in that, please like and share. Nick says here. Yeah, Nick says, I hope that Carney can put aside his net zero extremism and look at what is best for Canada. Wishful thinking? Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Next.
No, he will not do it. And
you guys are like, next.
Yeah. Wishful thinking. Next. Yeah. The thing people don't understand about the carbon rebate, he did not eliminate the carbon tax. He simply slid it down to zero. That's all it is. He can at any time slide it back up to whatever he wants it to be. And I suspect he probably will.
I believe so too.
Tin for MT, I'll just call you Tint. I feel that politics isn't about policy anymore. It's no longer. It's about ideology. 100%. The far left supporters are cult members that can't be changed. I'm a liberal man, and I agree. The far left has become cult thinking. There definitely are liberal, common sense liberals out there, like me, like Jason, but we are unfortunately an endangered species right now. I do think that there are people out there who want to be common sense. It's just the left has created a purity spiral where you can't disagree anymore on the left without being demonized, without being ostracized. I can't tell you how many times I got called the far right Nazi just because I don't believe that men can become women. And so it's a weird place to be a liberal, but we're clinging on by my fingernails, but we do exist. We are out there. And I agree with your take here that ideologies become so prevalent. And that's why I think I feel like a lot of the election results were baked in even before the campaign started. For me, it was simple. It was, I didn't love voting for Poilievre. I voted for Stephen Harper, the first time, so 20 years ago maybe, but I just looked at the results. I looked at 9 years of 1% growth, and that's not 1% a year, which is bad enough. That's 1% growth over 9 years. And that you cannot use, no matter how good you feel about the Liberals or how good you feel about Carney, you simply cannot reward that kind of incompetence. That's historically bad performance. And in a democracy, if you reward that, the parties have no incentive to fix themselves.
But again, like the video I showed yesterday of this woman getting interviewed on the street saying that she will vote for the Liberals or else if she votes for the Conservatives, she's.
Do you have that queued up? Do you want to play it?
Yeah, this is a video I should probably play. Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah,
I'll get it up here because this is insane. Like this is exactly what happened. Here you go. Here's the video.
Yeah, this is
liberal because I have to. Because we're leaning towards liberal because I have to. Because we don't have any choice. It's either that or conservative, and I would die before I vote conservative.
Oh, really? Yeah. So even 3 straight terms of liberal, do you believe that they're the best choice?
I'm going to tell you the truth. Mm-hmm. I can disagree with the liberals, and I feel I would have a voice to disagree. Mm-hmm. The other party scares me. I'd rather be in disagreement than in fear.
You can disagree with liberals about the things they allow you to disagree with them on. I don't know.
But this is the lunacy.
It's lunacy.
I think I have more of a voice with the party that I don't agree with than the party that scares me. Like it's so nonsensical. It makes zero sense. I will vote for a party that I don't agree with because I'm scared of somebody else. And, I understand that for a lot of people, change is scary, but it wasn't that much of a change. Like the only difference between the Liberals and Pierre Poilievre was fiscal responsibility. Let's stop spending. Let's reevaluate where our money's going. Let's try to cut certain services. Like let's try to figure out a way that we're not going to go bankrupt. So there wasn't much of a difference. And if that scares you, like really, turn the TV off. Like those people could have just simply turned the TV off, and that would have stopped because they did no research whatsoever. But unfortunately, But I strongly believe that was there. We talked about this yesterday. Was there interference? Is there fraud going on? I believe that there was. But is that what caused the election to go left? No, I think this is what caused the election to go left. Is people like that, the boomers that really believe this. And
it's wild,
she wasn't an old white woman. I love the fact that the interviewer was a black guy and the woman was a black woman. So to me, it's not a white thing. It's not a white liberal problem. It's just an older generation. It's really generational problem at this point. And
I think they don't have the critical thinking faculties to deal with the modern age, right?
And Nico,
what I mean?
What's insane about this is that statistically speaking, if you look as people grow older, they become more conservative. Churchill said that if you're not a liberal in your 20s, you have no heart. Yeah. But if you're not a conservative in your 40s, you have no head.
Brain. Yeah, it's a quote.
I'm paraphrasing. I'm just making it up. It's not mine. Let's just say it's not my quote. But
whose quote was that?
I think it's Churchill. I think it's Churchill that said it. At least I'm always giving it to him.
Mr. Stiff Upper Lip. He's like Great Britain's hero. Right? You say anything bad about that guy, it's like taboo. Now, in regards to this woman, I support the notion that fear tactics is not a partisan thing. It's a bipartisan thing, and and the only reason why it's getting more attention now on the liberal side is because they use it to win. Now, what I reject is the notion that the Liberal Party in Canada or the United States will at least hear out your ideas and debate your ideas. I almost walked off the set because the last 10 years in your country and in mine, the people that were not interested in debating the ideas and having everybody be heard was the DNC establishment in my country and the Liberal Party in yours. I almost walked off the set.
To me, that's like the defining trait.
Liberals will at least hear you out. Is that
that's the defining trait of liberals these days? Is that they will not do that. They will not hear you out. So
that's a recent thing because again, we're both liberals, and free speech from the Vietnam era, way past the Iraq War, all the way into Obama's first and second election. The notion of debating ideas is what kept the party and made us look like the smart party, and I say us carefully. I'm registered NPP. I'm no party preference.
I think all three of us. One thing, if you're new to the show, one thing we all believe very strongly. If this show has an ethos, it's that free speech is non-negotiable.
Number one.
And she looked like this. She angry. Look at that. She angry. And that's how she looked.
And I think it used to be a core liberal value. I don't know when that changed, but it has. It no longer is. And it needs to get back to that because, as Nico will say regularly, without free speech, you don't have anything else. Democracy doesn't work without it. And I think, it's interesting that you brought that up, Jason, because I feel like that change happened around, probably, 2015?
After Romney.
Yeah, late 2010, 2015-ish. Yeah. It didn't happen overnight. It's sort of the thing, like, it was only recently I sort of woke up one day in the last couple of years. It was like, what the fuck? Now I'm a Nazi?
After Romney. In the United States, there was a huge controversy that we found that we were spying on our own citizens, right? We were using cell phone technology and this, and we were violating our privacy rights. And again, we can be to the left on right on whatever, but this is something where conservatives are like, this is a hard line for us. And some Democrats are like, dude, just, we're giving up our freedom for security. And you know what happens when you do that?
What do they say? You don't deserve either, right? You don't deserve either.
You deserve, well, you not only deserve it, but you're probably going to wind up with neither. Look what happened with COVID.
But one of the things that, I will add another thing to the 5 topics that Pierre Poilievre should have banged, and it's free speech. Because he did mention it, he dropped his platform Tuesday last week. So literally a few days before the election, he drops his platform. And one of the things that was buried in there that you needed to look for was free speech. He was he actually mentioned free speech in there, saying that his government would pass a bill for free speech, preventing censorship. He didn't go into detail, but just by the name of it, you can pretty much see that he wanted to go against Bill C-63, that was hate speech, that would completely go censorship side. So, but he didn't even beat that drum either. And this is mind-blowing to me, because again, how many people out there, leftists, middle of the way, rightists, are going to say that free speech is the most important thing? Yet he did not bang that drum either, and that would have been a dynamite of a topic to cover, because Carney cannot touch it with a 10-foot pole. He does not believe in free speech.
I agree 100%.
Well, unfortunately, there's a shift in dynamic of free speech. We think in America now, we think dangerous speech should not be free speech, and there's some small governing body that gets to decide what's dangerous and what's
not. That's dangerous in and of itself.
Yes, because it's giving up security for free, giving up freedom for security.
Yep, 100%.
And it prevents shows like here to have even that conversation.
If they pass a law here, I'm not gonna give a shit. If you want to charge me, we're gonna keep saying what we're gonna say.
It's just for you, it hasn't been a reality, but that reality has been true for me for 4 years. I've been banned on so many social media platforms because I said stuff like men are not women. This is not that crazy to believe. It's just that nobody else was saying it. But or that maybe we need informed consent when it comes to vaccination. Hey,
or just asking, okay, I'm actually I'm not anti-vax, but I do want to know, are we sure these are safe? Like, have we actually done the correct trials? Because I do want to know that if you're going to force me to put this drug into my body. I don't know how it got to be on the left that was a sacred cow.
It's your fault because vaccines are safe and effective. It's your fault. Vaccines are safe and effective.
You too. Vaccines are safe and effective.
And if you haven't had your 8th booster, you might as well just burn in hell.
Yeah, you're a terrible person.
Thank you. You just saved our YouTube channel right now, so thank you.
That's right. I wanted to take this question because or comment. So Paul says he's talking about referencing the comment a few minutes ago that someone's talking about is, remember the wishful thinking one from Nick. He said, is it wishful thinking? And Paul's responding to that. He said he just did a speech where he wants to add climate to be involved in every single financial transaction. And I remember seeing that yesterday. And once I saw Paul bring this up, I went and found that clip. So we're going to show that to you very quickly here because that's exactly exactly what he says. Literally.
Hold on, let me remove that. This is insane. I saw that video. This is insane.
That is insane. Like, I'm okay if you want to factor it in, but to say it has to be centered in every single financial transaction as if that's the only thing, that is how you get 1% growth, economic growth, over 10 fucking years.
You demanded action. And now it's time for the financial sector to deliver. To reach net zero, every country, every company, every bank, every investor, every pension fund around the world will need to make some big changes. In the run-up to COP26 in Glasgow, we have an enormous opportunity to bring climate change into the heart of every financial decision.
Every financial decision.
And our plan will manage the risks from climate change while helping to seize the opportunities from a newer, greener economy. The UK has been at the forefront of innovation for centuries, brimming with ingenuity and a can-do spirit. It also houses the world's largest financial system. And by bringing them together...
Yeah, and the rest is just sort of globalist claptrap. Same thing you're going to hear from them.
He just put climate change
at the heart of every financial decision.
No, hold on. He said climate change, and he related it to the biggest financial system in the world. Yeah. He basically told us that he wants to use climate change to feed the biggest economic system in the world. Tell me this is not WEF talk, that it's not one world government talk right there, that we will use climate change as a reason to put one economic system in the world. Tell me you cannot make that correlation. It's a shame I don't have my conspiracy, my tinfoil hat here in BC, but it should be on and see, there you go. My hat is on. But this is insane. Like, you listen to this, and not only is it completely ludicrous to put climate in the middle of every single financial decision when we're literally net zero in Canada, and we want to ship more of our business to China that emits 34% of the world CO2, while our biggest trading partner, the US, is at 14. Like, can you fuck off with this shit and just admit what it is? It's fucking taxation. You're trying to take our money away to control us more. That's it, plain and simple. Don't be a bitch and admit to it.
Yep. Yeah, I mean that's well said. I just want to take this question from Punko Adamfo because it made me laugh when I saw it. Are you guys for real? Keep your little heads in cereal boxes. What a load of BS. So I mean, I'm bringing this up just to use as a teaching point. That isn't really the way that we kind of talk on this show. It's not productive discourse. But I'm genuinely curious. Like, what specifically are you disagreeing with? Do you believe that this is not a divided nation right now? Or do you think, do you just, what's your take? Like, talk to us like adults and we will absolutely engage with you as one.
I'll say, where's the cereal being served? If it's in England and it's the United States with the red dye, I mean,
that matters.
You might be right on one of those.
And what cereal are we talking about?
And wrong in the other.
What cereal are we talking about?
What cereal? Was it
Cinnamon Toast Crunch? Because I'm down, brother.
Was it Fruit Loops or was it Special K?
what I really want to know is what box is big enough to fit this fucking massive.
Yeah, exactly, right. The fucking cereal box. You got to go to Costco to get one of those fucking things. The $35 boxes of fruit frosted flakes over
But
there.
to that comment, just to say, brother, you're allowed to disagree, but at least be precise in what you disagree with, because saying that everything is a case is full of BS, you know what? That might be your opinion, and that's fine. But at least be precise in what's BS. It's like me looking at you and saying you're full of shit. Not telling you why, but you know what, bro? You're full of shit. And
it's not productive, right?
Be precise. Be precise. Tell us why.
Well, it's productive because he introduced it, and now we get to say, hey, give us an example.
Yeah.
Or just keep trolling and we'll ignore the comment.
Show your work.
I don't want to ignore the comment. Maybe he's frustrated like we are, right?
100%.
So let him say his piece. And the best way to combat bad speech is good speech. Let's do it.
Absolutely.
I totally agree. We will always show those.
And that's why I bring up comment like if someone's continuously trolling, and it's not productive. But a lot of times, as I've said, people have come in kind of talking like that, and then if you just sort of like, okay, but like show your work a little bit here, specifically what are you disagreeing with, and then tell us your take, tell us what you would prefer. And a lot of times they're like, oh, okay, it's that kind of place. Well, here's what I say, and then we've had several who are now loyal listeners, and they started out kind of like that.
Just wanted to take Melissa's comment. So, Melissa, what's going on? Hey, gents, what's crack-lacking? I was optimistic leading into the election, now concerned for my family even more due to the economy. Silver lining, they're in Alberta. So, you know what? Maybe soon your family will become Americans without ever having to migrate south.
She lives in Texas.
Jason
she should get him to come down. Play some beach volleyball.
This one is a good one too. Paul says is because of Trump and the Canadian state media campaigning for the Liberals, convincing their watchers it's Trump. It's a stacked deck against conservatives. You guys aren't paying attention. And I don't know if you watched this
somewhere.
I don't know if you watched this show.
Okay.
We definitely are paying attention. And as we said yesterday, we're fully aware that those are real things. Absolutely, that the media really did Poilievre dirty. They really effectively use fear to connect him with Trump. And was that fair? It was not. And was that Poilievre's fault? It was not. At the same time, that is life, and that is every single political campaign. There's always going to be some curveball thrown at you. And if that's all it took to sink his campaign, then it was a paper tiger to begin with. He has to bear some responsibility for not being able to deal with the curveballs that threw at him. Because if it wasn't that, it would have been something else. That's always going to happen.
And Paul, let me ask you something. And we discussed this yesterday, but leave the message there. Let me ask you this, Paul. As the leader of a country that will have to play on the world stage, do you want a leader to be able to deal with curveballs? Do you want a leader that you can trust, that's going to be able to handle when shit hits the fan, when something goes wrong? Is that the type of leader that you want? Because that's the type of leader that I want. And if all you need is for somebody from a different country to take you off your course, you're not a good leader. Sorry, not sorry. At this point, I did not see leadership in Pierre Poilievre, and that's why he lost. There's a lot of people like me out there that are conservative, real conservatives, that looked at Pierre Poilievre and were like, this is not the leader Canada needs. So we can't vote for him. But at the same time, ask yourself this, bro. Do you think that if he cannot deal with Trump right now, that he could deal with him as a leader, that he could deal with all the curveballs that are coming his way as the leader of one of the biggest countries in the world? I don't see it. But you need to ask yourself that question, because he has a massive share of responsibility. He needs to look in the mirror and assess what he did, because he didn't do enough. He played not to lose. Plain and simple.
But he's not alone on that. We need to ask the entire comment section that question.
It's a great comment, right?
No, but Nico, it's a good question. Even though your answer, you already have a cause for conclusion. Like your answer is you don't think so. But that's guys.
And I want to add on to that question. What do you guys think should happen to Poilievre going forward? Are you comfortable if you're conservative? Are you comfortable with him as a leader? Do you think? I know that I think they can do some switcheroo with the seat somewhere. So let's just assume that's taken care of. Just your opinion. Do you want him as leader? Do you think he can stay on?
Or should stay on, yeah.
Yeah. this is a great one because I think this is a liberal voter, PC Police. Remember, we had asked him why he voted. Yeah, and this is a fair and valid point as far as I'm concerned. He says Carney's competence and his willingness to be open to pipelines, plus the last government bought and built a pipeline that bypasses the U.S. Something Harper didn't manage his 9 years. Now, I'm going to throw this Nico in a second, but I just want to add something. So I do kind of agree with you on competence. We have never doubted Carney's intelligence, and he is a smart guy, and I believe
just his integrity.
Yeah, just his integrity. Now the question about the pipelines, I think it's a bit of a switcheroo, a little bait and switch, because yes, he knew he had to say something like that in order to, it sounds great. One thing, but when he was asked specifically, will you get rid of Bill C-69? And Bill C-69 is necessary to be repealed in order to actually do the things he said he's going to do. He said, no, it's got to be, the provinces have to have a say. Now, I saw the bloc leader yesterday, and I might have I'll try to find it later. He said, Quebec there is no place for pipeline in Quebec. That is like unequivocally, he will not allow a pipeline in Quebec, period, end of story. And so, and Bill C-69 will give him an unquestioned veto. So on the one hand, Carney's saying, yeah, pipelines, love all that stuff. But on the other hand, he's explicitly refusing to do the thing required in order to do that. So he's kind of talking out of both sides of his mouth. He will not get any pipelines built because Bill C-69 will prevent it. But when it happens, he'll be say, and people say, but you promised pipelines. He'll say, what can I do, guys? My hands are tied. Got to obey the law. And of course, that's not true.
But I don't think the guy that made this post is speaking in terms of what will actually be. He's speaking in terms of a sales pitch of what this person got people to believe, right? And if
he's a liberal voter. He's
a liberal voter.
No,
I assume
but liberal voters need something to believe in. And if that's what this guy promised and ran on, it doesn't matter. Like if you guys see through the mud or claim to see through the mud on what someone's going to deliver, right?
But you're absolutely right.
We voted for in America, we voted for the squad. We voted for, minimum wage hike. We voted for student debt to be dealt with. And it sounded attractive, and AOC and Hakeem Jeffries and all of these people that were part of the squad, Rokana, Ilhan Omar, that were part of the social democrat squad, sold it. We believed it, and it didn't. You two are smart enough to see that coming a mile away. It wasn't going to happen, but I think that's what the poster was talking in terms of. Right.
Well, I will ask you, PC
people
Police.
were sold on that.
Do you believe? I just want to quickly ask him this, and then I'll throw it to you. Do you believe he's genuinely, actually, literally going to build pipelines, or is it more just you like the vibe shift? But again, and before I throw it to Nico, I just want to just quickly add, I really appreciate that comment because I know it seems like a lot of the commenters are on the right, but this is a home for everybody.
But they're answering your question. Why would someone vote for them? This is the reason why someone would vote for them.
I just want to encourage these kind of questions from everybody.
But you know what I'm saying? Not promises kept, but promises made. Mm-hmm. That's the subject matter. That's what got shifted to.
But I think that there's a massive difference between what you're saying and what Carney is saying, because when Joe Biden promised to erase we'll take the education debt, like
on day one.
Exactly. He said
he just forgot
that but he said he would remove that. There was nothing to say that he wouldn't. When he promised it, we could believe what he was saying.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Carney, if you did PC Police, I invite you to go read his own platform, because yes, he claims he's gonna somewhat allow for the building of pipelines. He'll remove the red tape, but he was clear that he would not destroy or get rid of Bill C-69. And without that removal, it is impossible to do it. You cannot build pipelines if every single province can simply veto the bill just because they don't want to.
And Quebec has explicitly said.
But hold on.
Who has the political IQ?
Hold on. But at the same time, if you continue to your message, the government did not buy the pipeline to build it. They bought the pipeline to stop the build of it. So again, you have half truth in your comment, and you need to dig deeper than what mainstream media tells you. You need to be able to go out there and look at the facts. Carney said it black on white on his platform that he will do what he could to remove red tape, but he said it out loud that he will not remove Bill C-69. This was the massive difference between the conservative and the liberals. That is
Nico,
the number one difference between the two platforms. Polyev would remove it, the liberals would not. You cannot build without removing that bill. Plain and simple. That's what the bill is about.
Nico, with respect, the conflicting forces here is political sales pitch versus political IQ, right? You're saying that Carney's saying one thing and got people to believe it, and you're also suggesting that people did their research, they would never believe it, right? Rob, you just talked about Biden running on wiping student debt clean, right? Now it seems like a believable sales pitch, but if you do your research, and this will blow your minds, he vowed to do it under something called the HEROES Act, which him and the Democrats knew the Supreme Court would shoot down because the HEROES Act was applied to veterans. But if he knew that if he did it under the Higher Education Act, the Supreme Court couldn't shoot it down. So he ran erasing student debt under an act that maybe he ain't competent. We know he's gone, but he knew his staff would not, or the administration would not be able to deliver. And that's something Americans don't know, right? So the conflicting forces, Nico, is political sales pitch versus political will. And if we want to align with that, cool. If we want to continue that in the comment section, let's do that.
Yeah, and this is only 30 seconds. I'm just going to quickly play this because he's unequivocal here. There is no space. Right. Absolutely.
And we will have to remain the barrier not to be crossed, protecting French language and secularity of the state in Quebec, and a different model in immigration, which has to be successful, and the fact that there's no future for oil and gas, at least in Quebec and probably everywhere. And this has to be said and protected. I have a brand new weapon to do that. Mr. Bonin will be extraordinary carrying that message.
and that weapon he's talking about is Bill C-69.
No, but it's more than that. Yep. It's more than that because don't forget, if there was one clear winner in the Canadian election, it was the Bloc. The Bloc has now power to veto everything that they want because the Conservative and the Liberals are so close in their seats that it will give the power to the Bloc to decide who wins. And I guarantee you that this is the perfect situation for Carney. Not only does he have the excuse that, oh, Bill C-69 is there, I have to give them the opportunity to give their opinion. He clearly, Blanchet stated that he will not build. Now he has the seats to block anything that the Conservative could present that would allow for that build of a new pipeline. So for when it comes to Carney, he has all the tools possible. He just needs to give money to the prostitute of the Quebec province that is Blanchet, and then we will make sure to push the independence of Alberta, because this is all I'm seeing. This type of speech, he's basically spitting in the face of the province that's been supporting the welfare state of Quebec, and I'm fucking from Quebec. And I can tell you that this guy is just going to suck on that tit that belongs to Alberta until they separate.
Absolutely. And he knows it. You can see in his face. He knows he's the big swinging. He's the big swinging dick right now, and he knows it. And you have those two things. Bill C-69 will not be repealed, and you've got Quebec saying unequivocally there is no place for no future for oil and gas.
Do you have Daniel Smith video? Because that would be, because I know you found some Daniel Smith video.
I've got.
It would be perfect for you to put them on right now because it will show you the contrast between the two, right?
Do you look at swinging dicks like a tennis match? Kind of.
The next swinging dick, she has no dick. She just. But I would argue that she's ballsier. No, she's ballsier than Blanchet, though.
Yeah, just give me 1 second, and I will.
Boy, should come roll up on Nico and be like, I've been watching you.
Take a couple while I find that there. Robin says, I like the name Political Orphans. Well, we appreciate that as well. Yeah. Wise Guy says, hi guys. Wise Guy, how you doing, brother? Good to see you back. This is a good point from Mr. Robot. This election was different. It marks the first time in over 6 decades where NDP no longer have official party status. It's a huge factor, and that's correct. There's several important sub-storylines to this election. It is absolutely a historical one. And for people like us that definitely makes it gives us a lot of stuff to talk about for sure.
You know, Liberals barely won a seat. The Conservative won 30. The NDP is no longer an official. I would ready to bet that Maxime Bernier is leaving the PPC and somebody else will take over. You have the Bloc that losing seat make them more powerful somehow. And you have Alberta that wants to separate. This is what happened 2 days ago.
Yeah, it's a wild election.
Insane. It's absolutely insane.
So I've got this video here queued up. This is Danielle Smith just from the other day, and it sort of positions where she's going to stand in what promises or what probably will be a showdown between Alberta and the rest of the country over the next 6 to 12 months.
To the new Prime Minister and the Liberal Party, I have one message. Alberta has had enough. Enough with Ottawa trampling over our provincial jurisdiction like Canada's Constitution doesn't exist. Enough with the meaningless virtue signaling climate policies that only make Canadians poorer and threaten our energy security. Enough of their screw the West, we'll take the rest mentality. Enough with their soft on crime policies that let repeat offenders roam the streets on bail. Enough with their unsafe supply, their open border policies, their censorship laws, the list goes on and on. To the new Prime Minister.
That's the next Conservative leader right now, I bet, as long as she stays in Canada. She's the only one I can see that has everything she said there was bang on. And the funny thing is it wasn't at all partisan. It was just a lot of common sense issues, right? It was crime. It was the economy. It was standard of living. There was no conservative red meat there. There's nothing. It's no culture wars bullshit. And that's what I see now. I see a lot of the common sense has shifted more towards the center right, and the right, away from the left.
And this left is the future. What we just heard right now, Blanchet saying we will not build, and Danielle Smith saying we need to build. This is going to be the communication that we see over the next 6 months to a year. And man, the political landscape in Canada is very, very, very muddy and interesting right now. For you and I, there's just infinite amount of content to be shared and spoken about, but goddamn, it's scary at the same time.
Absolutely.
Jason, what Jason said 2 days ago, that this is Carney is the last Prime Minister of Canada as we know it. Mm-hmm. So he said that 2 days ago. It keeps ringing in my head, and I think he's bang on. Canada over the next year or two is going to completely change. Like even the physical landscape of Canada is going to change. It's insane. Absolutely.
That's a sharp dude.
Absolutely. PC Police says men and women's sports is not a mainstream issue. Culture wars turns people off. That you couldn't be more wrong on that, man. And it is not a culture wars issue. It's a fundamental fairness issue. It's a women's rights issue. It is absolutely at the core of what is traditional progressive activism. Transgenderism as an ideology is an attack on gay rights, is an attack on women's rights. They're 50% of the population. That's not a niche issue. Women are just saying, listen, we deserve our own spaces. Society decided 100 years ago that women deserve their own spaces in some parts of society, that was necessary for them to retain their privacy, dignity, and safety. And that's something like, those are things like bathrooms, change rooms, women's prisons, women's sports. They deserve those. And to give them to any man who says that he wants them is it goes against absolutely the core of progressive activism as long as I've ever been my entire life, and B, it absolutely is a mainstream issue. That is one of the main reasons why Kamala lost, and the liberals would do. There's a reason Carney didn't touch that issue with a 10-foot pole, because that's an 80-20 issue. If you look at the polling, it's not even close. That's 80% of the public.
If it's an 80-20 issue, then it's not an issue.
Yeah, exactly. And you can, I saw a funny poll the other day. It was like, the approval rating for some ridiculous events like the Black Death. The Black Death had a 15% approval rating. So that was 85-15, right? So if you're gonna get 15% of the people who approve of the Black Death, then saying 20% of people support men and women's sports is not saying anything at all. You're saying the vast majority of society.
You're supporting his point. He said it's not the most important issue, and you're agreeing. If it's 80-20,
Well, no,
it's not an
he's
important
saying
issue.
he said it's not a mainstream issue. It absolutely is. If you have one party who's pushing to allow men into women's sports, that's an issue.
I mean, sure. Yeah, and I agree with you in the sense. There are other things that hold priority over that, but you should not diminish the significant importance of, like you said, what I would like to see from the conservative side is some fucking consistency, though, right? These guys are the first ones to be like, I don't watch women's sports because they're not as fast, they're not as strong as men. You know, they're the weaker sex, or they don't deserve all this money. Now all of a sudden, you know, you want to fucking protect women's sports. So make up your fucking mind. Is it important or is it not? You know. I mean,
you cannot. You know, the biggest irony of this whole thing is that the left is telling us that men are good in women's sports, but then they're going to tell us that they're feminists. There's nothing more feminist than to say that men don't belong in women's sports.
Yeah, it's wild.
So to I think it was PC Police. The point in the matter is that your opinion that it doesn't matter doesn't make it true. Pierre Poilievre could have addressed this because his base do not want women in, they don't want men in women's sports. In the same way as Carney beat the drum of Trump is evil, that's what his base wanted to hear. That's how he won.
Right.
What my point was is that Pierre Poilievre did not play the topics that mattered to his base, that could have mattered to people that were on the left, like a Rob. So this is the thing. You might not believe that it's important issue, but for parents out there that have women, that have daughters that compete and don't want them to get destroyed by a dude in a dress, it matters to them. So not because it doesn't matter to you, that it doesn't matter to a lot of people out there.
Yes, agreed.
Ain't nobody playing sports in a dress. That includes the dudes.
Gotcha. So we'll jump into a few of these, and I think we should probably move on with the Alberta independence thing, because I think that's we'll talk a little bit about what's going on there. Danielle Smith, she did some important things, I think, on that front. Hold
on. Let's introduce the subject before you do, because as much as we understand it more, we understand it because we've been looking into it for a few months now.
Well, I was thinking we'll take a few more comments, and then before we get into it, we will introduce it. Misfit SPF says no pipeline, no equalization payment. I like
that would make sense to me.
I like that idea, and it seems like it would be effective. And yeah, because it's got to really stick in your craw if you're Alberta, right? You're paying billions of dollars a year. Quebec gets $13 billion a year in equalization payments, and they're happy to take those, which are primarily funded by oil money. But the second Alberta needs something, like a pipeline built to help generate that money, they say no, you can go get fucked. But by the way, make sure that check's not late next month. And that's not a way to treat anyone in your own country. No wonder Alberta is so frustrated.
Dr. Dre Zero is saying that the Liberal government paid $33 billion for a $7 billion pipeline. Legal costs are not productivity. Carney will not cut any regulations, therefore waste will grow. Even Site C was 100% over budget. And that's basically what I was saying earlier. Yeah. They literally bought the pipeline in order to stop it. That's it. That's all they did. And Bill C-69, unless it's repealed, will always block pipelines, because you got guys like Blanchet that is telling you already. The fight, it's the day after the election, and he's like, we will not allow it.
Yeah. Not even the typical politician speak, like, well, if it makes sense for Quebec, even if we know it's not.
Have a conversation. Let's sit down and have a conversation.
He's just saying flat no.
Yep.
And yeah, like I think PC Police saying, like, using that example, well, they did get a pipeline built. Well, yeah, but getting a pipeline built 3 times over budget that's not a way to actually run, that's not a way to build infrastructure. That's all C-69 did, is it gives provinces the ability to extract all kinds of concessions. And that's in the West, which is still pipeline friendly. It still costs that much even in the West. In the East, it's just impossible. As Blanchette said, it's just not going to happen.
I just wanted to take this comment because Wise Guy is saying that where do most of your followers come from? Rumble seems to take a while for you to get my comment. YouTube, I would highly suggest that you do go on YouTube at the Bully Orphans. But at the same time, bro, we probably have 200 comments since we've started, maybe more. So it's possible that you're getting lost in all of the comments, but that's why
I like Wise Guy's comments. We look out for those.
But that's why, like, I saw Wise Guy, I took him because he always leaves good comments. But yeah, I'd suggest you go on YouTube.
I wonder if that's a good segue to talk about something that we'll probably talk more in detail tomorrow. I don't know if you want to do that now, Nico. Talking about
it's kind of a hard stop at 11.
Yeah, let's do it tomorrow because we're an hour and a half in and we showed 3 videos.
I have another podcast at noon too. So
okay,
but my transition like time, I need 45 minutes.
Yeah. So we're looking at some of these comments. A lot of them are just the audience talking to themselves, and that's we love to see that. Awesome. We'd love to see that too. Robin says it's absolute time for us to change Canada. Justin said we have no identity. Damn straight, we're ready to separate. A common sentiment for sure.
See, that's another question. That what you just said there. Perfect segue for me to ask you: what is Canada? What are the values that Canada hold dear? What do Canadians stand for? Question for you.
That's a good question. Joe Stradamus, one of our resident lefties, says at PC Police, the trans cult helped the Dems lose millions of votes between 2020 and 2024.
Ding, 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 ding,
8 million in all caps, he says. Joe is also a liberal. He's on the left, and he's 1,000,000% correct. These are fundamental fairness issues. And the only reason it wasn't a big issue in this election is because Carney wisely chose not to touch it with a 10-foot pole. But there's a reason why he chose not to do that.
Wise Guy, you're about bang on. It's 31%. If I understand your comment, I think the 30% is none of the above. Yes, we don't want to vote to any of the people that you presented, but it would be good to have that box on the ballot and that number to be tabulated and shown as Canadians are fed up because we would have won.
Yeah, a way to separate yourself from the people who just don't care, who just aren't interested, not going to go vote, because those are two very different groups of people. Even though right now all we see is them lumped in as the same, we just see them as non-voters, and I think there's value in being able to separate them and quantify that number. Nick says, as a woman, I'm blown away that women support transgender rights. It is fundamentally at its core suppresses women's rights. You nailed it, Nick. I have daughters, so no. It is absolutely it is an attack on women's rights, and it's amazing how the ideology managed to sneak its way into left-wing and liberal discourse, but it's done it very effectively, and not just liberal discourse, just society as a whole. It's been very, very effective.
Yeah. My alarm bell went off when I watched Dave Chappelle, The Closer. He said
that was a great one.
Caitlyn Jenner, his first year as a woman, wins Time Magazine's
Woman of the Year. Well, the best women are men.
Right? He's better than all of y'all in this room.
Yeah, and
not even like long enough to have a period.
yeah, that's right. And it's sometimes comedy is the thing that really opens your eyes because we're all
not
laughing.
Even real blood is like beet juice. It gets worse. Sorry,
yeah. Like 100%, and that was a great. I think with The Closer, wasn't it? That was a great.
But that was a humorous way of just telling everybody,
focusing,
please make this make sense.
Because as you're laughing, you're thinking
as a woman. Well, only 1 year as a woman wins Time Magazine's Woman of the Year.
Yeah. And
you couldn't find a woman better than Caitlyn Jenner. Really,
the best women are men, apparently.
There was a comment, I don't know if you saw it, about how Polyev did not blow a 20 points lead.
I think it was a little higher.
Because I don't know who said it. There's so many comments. It's hard to keep track of all of them. But what I was saying is he blew a 20 points lead compared to when he was going against Trudeau.
Yeah,
and the polls, if you go back to those polls, you're looking at least a 17%. So I'm saying 20% because it's closer to 17 is closer to 20 than it is to 15 or to 10. But the point is that he blew a massive lead. And all the Liberals had to do is to switch to put Carney instead of Trudeau, just like they did in the U.S. when they replaced Joe Biden by Kamala Harris.
Yeah, that's true, right?
That's what I meant. It's just I want to make sure we're on the same page, in case I wasn't clear when I explained it earlier. But he was never winning by 20 points towards Carney. Like with Carney, it was kiff the whole time. Even Carney was winning. It's when he was predicted to run against Trudeau, he had that 20-point lead.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow,
And that's an important clarification there. Nick says, so this is reference to the question we asked, should Poilievre stay on? Nick says, I think he should stay on, but also feel the party needs to let him be who he is instead of forcing him into a mold that they perceive as less offense to moderates. Do you think that's what happened? I mean, I mean, none of us are behind the scenes at Liberal headquarters, and that's entirely possible. It's also possible, Conservatives. Yeah. It's also possible that Poilievre himself that's just his personality. He may have put himself in that box. I don't know enough to know what happened, but if that is what's going on, if it was just listening to advisors who advised him of that, I agree that was bad advice. And if he does stay on, he would do very well to get rid of those advisors.
I spoke to quite a few people that are part of his campaign, that are behind the scene, and that's what they tried to tell me the whole campaign. Is that what you're seeing is not the real Pierre Poilievre. He's literally not trying to lose, was the sentiment. And this is what we've been saying all along. Like, if you don't play to win, you're going to lose. And that's what happened here.
Yeah, you can't play keep away ball.
No, and if that's true, he had, again, this is going to go back to the same thing. A leader will be surrounded by people telling him what to do. A leader is supposed to choose to listen and choose who he's going to listen to. That's what a great leader does. He's going to put a bunch of people around the table that he trusts, listen to their opinion, and then act and take the best decision that he believes is the best decision. There's nobody to blame outside of Pierre Poilievre if he chose not to listen. And I'm playing devil's advocate here. Let's say that you're correct, let's say you're correct, and that he let his own party tell him what to say. Is that really the type of leader that you want?
Yep.
Well, true. Look, there's two kinds of sports. There's basketball where you get a 20-point lead, right? And there's 10 minutes on the clock and you're just trying to play keep away ball till the clock runs out and then you win, right? And then there's my sport, my wheelhouse, beach volleyball. You actually have to get to 21 points, right? You get to 19 points, you have a
19-10
lead. If you don't get to 21, that other team might come back and tie the game or win. So he's playing the wrong sport.
Yeah, and
keep away ball doesn't win politics.
And if you wanted to go keep with the sports analogy, if you're anyone's football fans, the prevent defense at the end of the game
prevents you from winning.
Yeah, that's what they say, right? It prevents you from winning, and that's exactly right.
Like, I don't know what the hell we talking about.
Something though. All I can say, bro, is that you made me imagine, because you like beach volleyball, and for the people that don't know, Jason coaches female beach volleyball. So by you saying this, I imagine Pierre Poilievre in a bathing suit. So thanks a lot.
Thanks for that one.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. That's the mental image I needed this morning.
Kashmir says,
ain't no ugly people in Hermosa Beach. He ain't gonna survive out here. Better go to Coney Island or something.
Kashmir says, can you see me? Yes, Kashmir, we can. We've been, it's a good thing. Obviously, we're getting a lot of new followers, new listeners. We're getting a ton of comments lately. And we do have a system in place we'll probably talk about tomorrow that's going to make it a little easier for comments to get seen. But that's all that is. We are not ignoring your comments at all. We've got a lot right now.
I'm the reason why I'm looking down, I'm looking at all of them.
Yeah, no, and we're definitely seeing them. She says, I moved from Toronto to Calgary in 2020, and I see how bad Alberta gets screwed, and how ungrateful Eastern Canada is about the huge transfer payments, and hates us. The snobbery entitlement is astonishing. Yeah, and that's exactly why we are going to start really covering strongly this issue on Alberta independence, because I think there's a lot of people, as Nico and me said, we had no idea. And you didn't have an idea until you yourself moved there. So that a lot of it is just ignorance. And we're going to try to do what we can to sort of raise awareness on this issue, hopefully before it's too late.
And Craig, I saw your comment in the comment section. It was really, really good. And I know they're going through stuff, but I wanted to let you know I saw it about what you said about Trump.
And this is why we want to talk about the Alberta independence, because mainstream media is not going to cover it until it's too late. until it's almost a done deal, and they're like, "Oh wow, what's going on there?" So no, we will talk about it to make sure that you guys are aware.
Very good point, man.
Well, and we both think this is probably going to be the biggest story in Canadian politics over the next 6 months.
It's not probably.
And
don't say probably. I don't believe that probably will. It will be.
It will be.
So don't speak to me, okay? Don't speak for me.
Nico's not in the mood. That's what he feels like right now. That's how you feel right now.
Nico's feeling a bit pedantic today. But yes,
call it crass.
How long have you been waiting to put that word in a sentence?
Pedantic all the time, just like juxtaposition. I'm always looking for a place to use juxtaposition. So if you hear it, I'm inside, I'm doing my little dance like, fuck yeah, today was the day, motherfucker. You got that word out. But yeah, it is going to be without doubt the biggest issue in Canadian politics, and it's not going to be covered. The mainstream media will not touch it with a 10-foot pole, and if they even do, it won't be it won't be fairly. So that's what we're going to do. If that's an issue that's important to you, then definitely make sure to like and share this podcast, because basically we're gonna get experts come on to talk about it. Any news that comes up, we're gonna hit it. So yeah, basically, if all you ever do is watch our show, you will be among the most informed.
This is my favorite one.
Her angry.
That's Nico right now.
Angry girl. Yeah. That's him. That's Nico watching the live results of the election come in.
Yeah, we have the same hair though. You found me perfectly. That's what I looked like as a little girl growing up.
Nick says, "Do you get a transcript of the chat when the stream ends?" Yeah, and so again, we'll talk about it probably more tomorrow. But just briefly, we're gonna get a mini subscription model with levels. Like it's not gonna be much. It's gonna be like buy a coffee or maybe go up to $7.99 or something. But what that's gonna do is that's going to give priorities to all the chats. So if it is, because some people just watch, we'll have people say, yeah, we've been watching for 3 months and this is the first time we comment, and that's great. But I know for a lot of our followers, like, the chatting and the us engaging is a huge part of it. And that's for us. We love that. That is absolutely the reason we do the show. But unfortunately, we're kind of becoming victims of our own success a little bit. And, up until really last week, we've been doing this since January. Up until last week, we were able to take every single comment. And unfortunately, this is not possible right now. And so if that is important to you, there will be an option to, spend a couple bucks a month, and also just to support the show. We don't really make any money doing this, but we want to do this.
We don't really make any money. We don't make any money.
Yeah.
It's not really, we don't make any money.
Yeah. So
I think you guys might be going towards the subject matter first, then comments, and then the next subject matter.
Well, we're going to have topic lists every day, but basically I actually envision the show as mostly audience engagement, and we're all just talking about the issues. Like the topics that we have will be like the guide for what to talk about it. But as you can see today, we've got our topics, and we're already an hour and 45 minutes into it. And all we've gotten is one video of Carney. And that's typically,
but at the same time, and like we talked about, that all the shows are a bit different because we're going to cover different topics, obviously what's trending right now. But I think today we needed something a bit different to just give a space for Canadians to just vent.
Group therapy.
I don't know for you, but my wife is fucking fed up of hearing me talking about politics. So, and I know that there's a lot of people out there that their significant other is tired of hearing them talk about politics. So if you're pissed off about what happened, it's the perfect place for you to vent. Or if you're happy about what happened, perfect
to
place
gloat.
for you to gloat. Exactly.
To gloat.
Yeah, exactly.
But Clarissa says you might not get paid to do the podcast, but you get to be rock stars. Who can say that? Yeah, I mean, you know what? We love it. We've been doing this since January. We go Monday to Friday. Between the two of us, Nico puts a little more time into it, but between the two of us, we put significant hours every single day. And our goal is to be able to do this every day, right? Because we love it. We feel like we're creating something that's special, and as I said, we're not just creating a show, it's a community here. And I think the quality of the engagement is absolutely.
You guys are fantastic.
Secret sauce of this show for sure.
Yeah.
Bro, we have more than 5,000 people on the feed 2 days ago, live, just watching the election with us.
How many do you think were Canadian? Like 80%?
Probably most of them.
But I don't know. There's a lot of Americans that are very interested in Canadian politics too. So
I took time away surviving the mean streets of Hermosa Beach, California, to make this happen.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Jason's here every Wednesday as the special friend of the show. A funny story. We used to be called, what were we used? The Silent Middle. And I don't think either of us liked it, but it was just, and then Jason was probably one of our first commenters. He was like, you guys are more like, was it homeless? He said
Politically homeless.
And the political homeless was taken. So then we would sit down and we're like, what about orphans? And then the rest is history, as they say. So Jason's a part of the show lore.
What a great name. As long
Yeah,
as you
it is a
have
great
that name, you'll have a Wednesday guy.
And Tony says, you go ahead, Nico.
Oh, I just wanted to take his comment because
Yep.
my name was in there, so I guess it made sense that I take it.
Yep.
I'm bordering on divorce territory lately with my political fixation, Nico.
Exactly, right?
It's not gonna happen. It's gonna be a short-lived divorce. It's gonna be more of you're gonna take a break. Oh, I think we should see other people, but then you're gonna come back.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, my wife unfriended me when Obama second election. My wife's she bleeds blue, and she was on my side, but she couldn't take the arguing. She's like,
really,
He unfriended me on Facebook and said, I'm going to friend you again when the election's over.
Robin says, I'm glad I came across you on YouTube. Catch you guys again. We appreciate all you guys. I appreciate you, Robin, especially you've been a big commentator today, and we always appreciate that.
And I like this one from Nick. I absolutely love this one.
Yeah. Like that.
Man.
Yeah, that's a great. Yeah, because we discuss politics, but really what we discuss is life through the lens of politics and culture. And I think that's.
Can you read that comment for the people that can't?
Politics influence culture.
Yep, absolutely.
Culture is always downstream from politics, unfortunately. And
what's the comment?
Like Nick is saying that it's not like politics, though. It's real life that politics affect, and that's the whole point. We all agree because, as Rob said earlier, you can go to 10 other places, 100 other places where people are going to read you the news. You're not going to find a place where you get to comment on what's going on and tell us how it changes your life.
You guys are as part of a show as we are.
Without you guys, we did one show out of 66 shows over the past 3 months that wasn't live, and it fucking sucked.
It was brutal.
It sucked.
We hated
it. Not. Yeah, it sucked. It sucked. So we're very, very happy to have you guys on board.
Yeah.
Yep.
Raymond is new member. Oh, okay. So is that
first
the first?
Ever.
Is that our first? So I guess that's already up. We're gonna talk about it tomorrow.
Hold on, new member. Let's give Raymond a whoop whoop.
Woody woo. That's the very first one.
Number one.
Yeah. So I guess
Raymond, and he's
number one. That's also a Wise Guy. I don't know if you saw up earlier. He said this is Wise Guy. Yeah, Wise Guy from.
So you guys gotta have like a kudos song for that, you know?
Yeah. We got
something like that.
So I guess that is up and running, guys. I mean, I guess we were going to talk about it tomorrow, but
I set it up last week. We just never got around to speaking about it because it was the election.
We're so focused on the actual show. We're like, we'll figure out that stuff.
We'll talk about it later.
But if you
Raymond Charme, merci mon cher.
Yep, and I guess if you go over there, you'll see the different levels and what they get you. But essentially, it's priority comments. It doesn't mean we won't take your comments if you're not a member. Of course we will, but we have to give priority to our members for sure. But if it's a great comment that furthers the discourse, there's absolutely no requirement for you to be any type of member. But if you do feel like you appreciate what we do and you think that there's, I think the lowest option is $2.99 a month. It's really nothing. A cup, maybe a cup of coffee, not even a fancy one like Jason with a pumpkin spice latte that he always drinks. It's just a basic ass
on the pumpkins, man. No pumpkins. Not chocolate. Actually, I suggest two pumps of sugar-free vanilla, 1 pump of hazelnut, non-fat milk,
and a side of dick.
Yeah. And
a side of penis.
Raymond,
and even the penis is like, I'll have sex tomorrow. Fuck that.
That's Wise Guy. Just bought membership. Raymond, you're our very first one, brother, and you'll always have that special place in our heart. So yeah, I see it now. It comes up right there. So it does come over to here to StreamYard. So that's great. Robin says, as long as you guys don't police the crap out of your followers, we should be good. Trust me. Honestly,
Robin,
you do not have to worry about that. I've said like we've had like once or twice, like 99.9 of our audience members are incredible. We've had one or two kind of really bad trolls, and I'm like, man, we got to block this guy just because he's like polluting the chat. And Nico won't even do that. So
No, if they're
we are
trolling other audience members, if they're trolling other people in the chat, I think for me that's
what.
hard.
Yeah, we did
If
it.
they're
We did come to
trolling
that
us, they're
agreement. If you're
supposed to
attacking
fucking troll
people,
you guys.
if you're making the experience shit for the
Yeah.
community, yes, we will police that. But other than that, you have to be. It got to be pretty bad if we're doing
But
that.
Guys,
I can
sometimes
tell
these
you-
two are full of shit. Sometimes these two are full of shit. They're
Hey,
supposed to be
we need
trolled.
people to keep us in line, man.
Sometimes.
But guys, I have more than 200,000 followers as a fucking conservative. I get trolled on a daily basis. I've never blocked one person from commenting on my stuff. Never. I believe in free speech above all, and free speech is about protecting the speech you don't agree with. So how much of a hypocrite would we be if we block people from speaking because we don't like what they say?
Yeah,
Not only are we going to engage with you, but we will show you down here. We'll show your comments. So hopefully your picture is attached to your comments, so people all see who you are.
Just don't say nothing about the Yankees. We good, you know.
Well, and Jason will tell you, like Jason, he's here every Wednesday, but you know, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, he's a commenter with you guys. Like it really is a community. Like you kind of get to know these people, right? Like haven't seen haven't seen Prairie in a while, but you know she's she's been away for a week or so. But there's the regulars, and it's a beautiful thing we're creating here, and this has nothing, almost very little to do with me and Nico. It really is about you guys, and we will always give you guys credit.
I've seen this formula, guys. It works. This is going to get bigger. It works. Sabrina Salvati, a Revolutionary Blackout Network, has a live thing like this, and it gets bigger and bigger every week. It's gotten so big that they have a chat, something called a call-in after they go off YouTube, and that's 500 people. So, and it was because it was organic, and because people just want honesty.
Yeah, authenticity is the name of the game.
You agree with Nico all the time, but you're never going to get something that comes from this a bought or sold out place, right? And there is a way to do that without selling out, and these guys are doing it.
Absolutely. No, I couldn't. You said it exactly. Funny when we started to discuss this show, Nico was pretty adamant that we do it live, and I was like, really live? But yeah, I was. Within the first 2 or 3 episodes, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. There's a completely different energy, and I think at first you're like, oh well, what if I say something stupid? Oh, I fuck up, and oh shit, we do that all the time.
I say something stupid,
literally, all the time. I mean, it is
when you have no shame, it doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah.
But I stand by what I've said, even if I was wrong, because I can't delete it. It's out there. It's out there.
And there's a fine line between free speech and someone just abusing you for your own narcissistic. Yeah, and we agreed if we see that kind of a commentator, just for especially if they're abusing other commentators.
Yeah, other people's a hard stop.
Yeah.
To me, there's nothing you're gonna say about me that's gonna hurt my feelings. I'm a grown ass man. I'm just not. I'm good. Say what you want. The Yankees suck. Maybe that might get to me, you know.
But I find it, I feel like we kind of set the tone for how we want it, and the people that stick around, you guys are exactly like our audience is exactly the right fit for what we're trying to do, and they will and I've seen it already. A lot of the community is starting to police itself. I've seen a few trolls just get fucking buried, and it's like, sweet, don't even have to deal with it.
Misfit FPS is he's 100% accurate. Say something stupid, you get roasted, and we move on to the next one.
Yeah, we won't have to, and my point is we won't have to. Not we, you guys won't have to. You know, I'm in New York and coaching beach volleyball and commentating beach volleyball in California. Do you think I have friends here? No, they're fucking territorial. When you're talented, there's a good old boys club and you're not in it. They go out of their way to defend it. I get fucking trolled all the time, and I'm like Nico. I'm like, that's it. That's all you got. Before you actually thought about what you were going to type and you click send and that was it. That was it. That was what you got.
Yeah. The interesting part of it, and this is one of the things that I called out from Pierre Poliev from the get-go, and Mark Carney is in the same boat, is they did not even have the audacity to do what we do every day. They did not have the audacity to just take random questions live from people and address them. Something that Rob and I do the fact is that I've been doing podcasting for 4 years. When I found Rob 4 months ago, he had never done this.
It's
Look at how far he's become over the past 4 months by just doing it. No, but I'll give credit where credit is due. But at the same time, what does that say about our leaders that are not ready to face their own people? What type of leadership is that? What type of leaders are they going to be on the world stage if they can't even look in the eyes of their voters and take their questions
without it being completely scripted, right?
Because this is exactly the discourse that Rob and I were looking for 4 months ago, is having people that disagree, that agree, that don't know, to talk to each other, because we don't allow it anymore. And how can you ever evolve your way of thinking if you do not listen to the people you don't agree with?
Yeah.
And that's all it is, right?
Guys, I have to hop on my own podcast, so 11's a hard stop for me, but I would love at some point for you guys to talk about Candace Owens and she has a little minor beef with Trump in regards to the free speech thing. And maybe you guys can look into that. And I'm, of course, you know me, I'm going to be in the comments.
Oh yeah, you'll be in the comments.
But sure. I really appreciate you guys having me. I actually have the Option podcast, which starts at noon.
Oh,
so
nice.
I need an hour turnaround time. I have a special guest for anyone who wants to remotely interested in my wheelhouse. But I love you guys, and I love everybody in the comment section. Okay.
All right, brother. We'll see you tomorrow.
Next week, brother.
Yeah. Peace out, my dudes. Let me get out.
Of course, he had to say it before he left. Let me get out.
Yeah. Clarissa says, "Have a good day." Just talking to Jason. Yeah, I love to see that stuff. Misfit SPS says, I like it here because we have conversation on issues that we may not always agree on, but we can converse in a civilized manner. And you nailed it. That is exactly that's exactly what we tried to do. And I find that, if you set the tone, and that's sort of what me and Nico have been saying all the time, or the whole time from the beginning, then the community it polices itself. Everyone knows what to expect. And the people that are like-minded, they like that. They want to stick around. And if they see some troll come in and try to cause shit, people don't like that. It's not going to fly. There's a million other shows for that. If that's your thing, that's most other shows.
Agreed.
Yeah. And again, everyone's opinion here, especially as long as you show your work, man, you got a place to say your piece here.
Robin, awesome. Great having you on. Have a good day at work. And Raymond Charme, I'm from the Ottawa Valley, actually. You have a very French name, so I assumed you were from Quebec, but I understand.
Ottawa Valley's French. There's quite a bit of French there too, isn't there?
Well, of course, it's connected. It's basically connected to the province of Quebec, right? Ottawa's right next to it. So I know he probably speaks French with a name like Raymond Charme. So, and I spent a lot of my life in Ottawa. So I feel you, brother, but awesome having you on, wise guy.
Yeah. Guys, we're seeing new faces more and more every day. And, we can't say how much we appreciate that, and it's really validating to see that because we knew there was a market for this kind of thing. We knew there had to be people out there like us who are just sick of the political discourse as the way it's been over the last 5, 10, 15 years. And it's pretty validating to see that, yeah, we were right. There actually is a lot of people who are sick of politics as usual, who just want to space to talk about shit, to disagree with shit, to agree about stuff. And, between all of us, we'll get to a place where we either find that common ground or we just disagree respectfully. And I mean, that's all you can really hope for. Do you want to jump onto the, I guess we could probably jump over to the Daniel Smith thing, and then we'll
end it with that, because this is so important to put a bit of perspective to this. Alberta has had a growing movement within Alberta wanting to separate from the rest of Canada, because they're tired of the East taking them for granted, taking their money under the equalization payments, and then shitting on them afterwards. Like they take the money, but they don't like where the money's coming from, but it's not stopping them from taking the money, right? Like Quebec receives the most money from equalization payments, yet Blanchet has the audacity to say that we will not build a pipeline. Basically, he's not going to allow Alberta to build a pipeline in order to become more self-reliant and sell our oil to other countries like Europe. So this is what we're seeing. So that's one side of the story. On the other side, you have the premier, Daniel Smith, that's starting to talk very loudly. Like I've read some comments this morning that people are pretty much saying that they're already writing the independence, the document that they need to do, and they were probably right, because as you're going to see in the next video, there used to be, in order to have a referendum in Alberta, you needed 600,000 signatures, which was about 20% or so of the voting. Like it was more than 20% of the voting poll. Like it's a massive amount of people, because I think there are 4.2 million people when we checked yesterday. And obviously not all of them are above 18. So there's some of them that are not voting. But the point is that you needed 600,000 signatures in order to declare a referendum, which in this case would be about Alberta's independence. And it seems that that changed. So if you want to cue her video.
Yeah. So the video I had was the one that I played earlier about her talking to Carney, saying they're not going to basically they're not going to put up with this shit anymore. What I wanted to show here is I think this is pretty important here, because it's let me see here if you can see that. So remember, even yesterday on the show, we had a question saying, how many signatures do you need to trigger a referendum? It was 600,000. Yep. And Daniel Smith, just yesterday, literally the day after the election, changed that to only 177,000. And that is significant, not because it's not about the numbers. They were going to get 600,000 pretty quickly anyways. What it's significant for is that it suggests that Daniel Smith is positioning herself as a supporter of this movement. She's making it easier for the referendum to happen, and she's doing that. She didn't need to actually, like, they were going to get that 600. And if you can see this here, oh wait, I'll stop that and I'll show you. This is where the actual numbers are. There's a change.org petition up.
Yep.
And if you can see, they've already gotten that. They've got
192,000
as of last night. So they were going to get that 600,000 already within a week. She didn't need to do that.
But now it's done.
Done. But I think it was important because it's positioning her as a supporter of it. She may not actually end up being a supporter of actual separatism, but she's positioning herself as a supporter of giving Albertans a voice. And so that, to me, the fact that she's willing to do that suggests that this is definitely going to happen sooner rather than later, because the premier would be able to, she wouldn't be able to stop it, but she would be able to put up a lot of roadblocks if she wanted to and make it more difficult. But she's signaling she's going to make it easier, which means she's at least strongly supportive of the referendum itself. Maybe she's hoping they do what Quebec did, where they use a referendum to just finally wake Canada up. The difference is Quebec didn't actually have real grievances. Alberta genuinely does, but
they didn't have leverage either. It's more than just grievances, right? It's Alberta has so much leverage that this should scare the shit out of Carney.
I agree.
Because, I've been having a lot of discussions over the past few days, and there's we can see three scenarios as to why she did that. She could do it as in put a lot of pressure on Ottawa, similar to what to what Quebec did, and renegotiate. Just, okay, this is not working for us. We need to figure out something better. We need to remove those caps of oil production. We need to be able to dig, to drill, and you need to make sure we can build pipelines. Maybe that's what she's trying to do. Then there's also the version of she wants to be independent. They want a sovereign nation that Alberta stands alone. That's the second option. And the third option could be that we want to separate from Canada to become the 51st state. So those seems like what we're going to see. We're going to be looking, and we're going to be talking a lot about, you and I, over the next six months to a year, because I've heard of delegations that have already gone down south, and those conversations, it's now becoming, I wasn't allowed to speak about it because I have private information that's being thrown my way, but I've seen a video on Fox News this morning. So this is no longer hidden. There's been delegations that has gone to the US that are looking for the US to help Alberta become independent by backing them, because as per the system, the world system, you need 2 other independent countries to recognize you as a foreign nation, just like they're trying to do with Greenland. So that's what the interview was talking about, how we want the Americans to do what they're trying to do with Greenland. Allow us to like help us, back us to become our own country. So it's very, again, the Alberta situation is going to redefine Canada as we know it. And the next year is going to be Canada is going to be plagued by this, right? This is not going away. This problem could have been avoided if Pierre Poilievre would have became prime minister. They could have found a way to work it. And what was it? 64.5% of Albertans voted for Poilievre.
Yeah, it wasn't even close. The
Liberals were at
massive
24%, almost 3 times more,
massive popular vote.
3 times more people voted for Poilievre than they did for the Liberals. And the only reason they got 24% of the votes is because Edmonton is a massive city compared to the rural area. But it was one riding. The Liberals won 1 riding, and I think from memory, the Conservative won 32. That's insane.
Yeah, it's crazy,
like,
eh?
And it's not even close. It's a landslide, right?
Yeah.
So this problem is not going anywhere. This is a problem we are going to have.
This is going to be the story that drives Canadian politics for the next 6 to 12 months. And nobody is going to
Canadian
cover
history. It's not just 6 months to a year, right? This will redefine Canada as a whole. It's insane.
And mainstream media won't touch it with a 10-foot pole. Other podcasts might talk about it here or there, but we're going to position ourselves. We're not going to be the separatist podcast. It's just we're going to make that an ongoing story that we're going to cover every single time major updates come, so that because we think there's going to be a lot of interest all across Canada in this story. And don't get me wrong, we're not taking a side. We're both outsiders. We are not Albertans. This is not going to be a pro or anti-separatist coverage. We're going to do what the media should be doing. We're just going to give you facts. We're going to bring experts on to tell you what's going on. I'll be very clear about my personal preference. I hope Alberta stays in Canada. I want Canada to be whole. At the same time, I completely understand the grievances. They're absolutely legitimate, and I understand the frustration that Albertans are feeling. And if I'm ever going to be angry at anybody, I'm going to be angry at the elites in Ottawa for putting Alberta in this position.
And, the more I have conversations with Albertans that are part of the independent movement, the more I understand why. I get their grievances. And what blows my mind the most? If there's one thing I have learned over the past few months from dealing with a lot of political figures in Alberta is that they are so patient. It blows my mind how patient they have been over the past 10 years, considering what the federal government has done to them. So this impresses me, the fact that they're still being polite. Like, you got guys like Jason Leving that's still super polite about it, yet he's going to be, I'm calling it out already, he's going to be one of the main figures in that movement. I can see it coming.
I think so.
And this is not privy information. I don't know. I'm just saying this because I'm following what's going on. But at the same time, I'm very impressed how polite they have stayed throughout this whole ordeal. And I'm very curious to see what happens. But like you said, I really hope that that the Alberta stays in Canada, because it's better for us. If I can be
absolutely.
Selfish, if I can be selfish for a second, but I also will say that if I ever will stay in Canada, which this is not really on the table, I'm not sure right now where the hell I'm going to go.
Yep.
It would be in Alberta. If I see that it continues going the way it's going with Carney, where I think it's going to go with Carney, and Alberta is looking to separate, I will probably do my best to move down there. Like, I could see, hopefully my wife is not listening to this because we haven't spoken about this. But I'm just
you'll get off the show and she'll give you the eye. You're like, oh shit, you saw that.
She's not here, right? She's in Montreal. I'm in BC right now. She can't hear me. So unless hopefully she wasn't listening to me. So it's all good.
So Jay Torch became a YouTube member. Jay Torch, we absolutely appreciate that. Again, guys, this is something we just rolled.
Tony.
Yeah, Tony says Daniel doesn't speak. Ask for me, not our ace. And I'm not sure if there's a typo there. Are you saying she doesn't speak for you? And or just if you could clarify that a little bit there, Tony. But again, we appreciate you. We appreciate that tip there. I'll go back and just because there's quite a few comments coming just since we started talking about this. I'll just take those ones. Let me see here. Yes. So Clarissa says she's for being our own country. When you talked about those different options, like one would be to join the states as a 51st state, another would be to just be independent. It'd be a pretty wealthy country. But that's she actually signed the petition for the referendum.
I fully understand.
Yeah, Misfit FPS says she's giving power to the people, talking about Daniel Smith. And yeah, I think that's the right way to play it. Like it actually wouldn't surprise me if, as the referendum gets going, she actually takes the side that she wants to keep Canada together. But I like that she is giving the voice. Like she's clearly signaling she's not going to get in the way, and she will in fact make it, do everything she can to make sure that the Albertans' voice get heard.
And I think that's the number one thing, is to be able to have a voice. No matter her as a leader right now, her job shouldn't be to go against a very big percentage of the population. Just allow the vote to happen.
Let them speak.
And then deal with the consequences. Like, let's see what we can do from here. And, Mark Mark, let's call it Mark. RIP Canada, April 28th, 2025. This is how I kind of see it personally, but we'll see. Hopefully not, but I see where you're coming from. But this is funny, man. J Torch is saying, okay, you got me. I got a little resentful about pay to play, but I thought I would buy these guys a beer.
Yeah, well, we appreciate that. And honestly, like I said, we've been doing this, every single day for 2.5 hours a day since January. We have never asked for anything. It's just now it's getting to the point where we're not able to take all the comments, and in order to be sure, to ensure that people who really want their voice heard make sure we get heard, we're always going to prioritize the comments of members, and of course just to support us, right? A couple bucks a month. Ideally, we'd like to be able to do this as a full-time job, and then maybe do it for 3.5 hours a day, because this is we did 4.5 for almost 5 hours the other day on election coverage, and that was a good time. I like that.
I'm a big fan of talk radio, man. And those episodes, those videos, those shows go for hours upon.
And you remember some of the best parts is people call in, right? And now we have that, but it's a little better because people don't have to call in. You just you throw your comment in there, and we'll get to it. And I want to be clear, there's no, if you have a good comment, it's gonna get put up on the screen and discussed.
It's just priority.
Absolutely. You don't have to pay a dime if you're bringing solid quality comments here. It's going to go on the screen. The member thing is just a guarantee that you get up there. It's just priority, and just like I said, just a way to buy us a beer, buy us a coffee. Hopefully we can do this as a full-time thing, and again, we're not. This is a show, it's a podcast, but more than that, it's a community, and without you guys, it isn't any of that. And so we're always going to
31%, bro. 31% of people didn't vote. Yeah. And how many people voted for the lesser of two, knowing they were voting for lesser of two evils?
That's right.
How many people voted for Polyev because they were voting against the Liberals? So there's so many. I would be curious to know how many people are political orphans in Canada and in the US and across the world, where none of the political parties represent their values anymore, and they're like, where the fuck do I stand? Well, just know this, you're not alone, man. Yeah. This is why we started this.
There's a place
we know there's a lot of people like us out there that just wants to have discourse, to have a conversation like we've had today, and agree, disagree, whatever. Let's just have the conversation, see where we fall.
Yeah, absolutely. And my mind has been changed here on this show. I've listened to people not by you, of course. No, if it's you, I'll just dig my heels in. I might think, fuck, that's a good point, but I can't let him win. Fuck that shit. So J Torch, we do appreciate that. Again, guys, you do not need to do any memberships, but of course it will get you priority comments, and it will support the show. And hopefully we can do this as much as we can to do it even longer. Misfit says there's a video clip of Trudeau saying that the oil in the West belongs to the East. Yeah, I'm in the East, and even I find that infuriating. I can't imagine how you guys in Alberta feel that. That's exactly the shit that we're talking about.
And the worst part is that comment is actually not even that bad, because that just confirms what he's been acting on. His actions have been dictating that the oil of Alberta belongs to the East just by taking equalization payment and sending it to the East. So the actions were already saying it. He just said it out loud, right?
If anything, like the automotive sector belongs to the West. They're the ones paying, billions of dollars out East. This is a great comment. I saw this here. Misfit SPF says, I'll do some digging, but I think somewhere that there's some kind of union between BC and Alberta if they were to separate. That's exactly what we mean when we say, if all you do is watch this show, you're going to be the most informed about this issue as anybody else, because we're going to pick up tidbits like this from, the audience is going to point us to stuff. And once, please do dig that up and send that to us, and we'll put that on the show and we'll talk about it. This is a very complex issue, and we are going to get absolutely to the bottom of it.
It's going to be Saskatchewan too, just so you know, man. Chances are that Saskatchewan's going to jump in if Alberta does it. And from what I'm hearing, if there's a part of BC that would separate, it's the north. The south is more liberal. The north is more rural. It's more conservative. And not only that, but you want the north in order to build a pipeline from Alberta to the Pacific. So technically, if the north of Alberta starts talking about independence, that would favor Alberta. So now, and this is where I believe it's going to go.
That's why I see it happening. Those two
Alberta, just Daniel Smith today, Mark is saying right now, it's perfect comment. Daniel is not getting in the way of the people the same way the federal government get in the way of Alberta selling its own oil. She gets it. She works for us, and that makes an amazing leader.
Yeah,
so
100%.
And Daniel Smith is my favorite politician in Canada. Like, personally, I like what she stands for. Is she perfect? Obviously not. She doesn't speak for me because I'm not from Alberta, but I respect what she's doing. And giving a voice to her people, or to the people of Alberta, is the smartest thing she could have done. Don't fight it. There's no point fighting it. You're not going to win that fight. You're not.
No.
So make it as easy as possible. If she could have made it, she made it 177,000, knowing that she would hit that number like this. It was the 90 days time to get those signatures to 120.
Meanwhile, it's up there in an hour.
Hours. He didn't even need 24 hours. But she knew it. All she did by doing that is allow the citizens of Alberta to get their voice heard. And now they're going to get to sign on the dotted line. Do you want independence, or do you not? Like, let's hear what the people want and deal with it. The politicians have forgot that they work for us, not the other way around. They're there to do what we want, not the other way around. And it's almost outrageous to see a politician actually listen to her people. Like what Daniel Smith is doing.
Yeah, I know. It seems radical, right?
It's the complete opposite of what other politicians seems to be doing, yet that should be the norm.
And I think, I agree with 100% with everything you just said. And I think she's signaling to people that she is not going to silence them. They're going to get their say. And like I said, I will not be at all surprised if once the actual campaign gets going, if she clearly says, no, I want Canada to stay together. I do not support separation, but that's her right. You know what I mean? That's, in my opinion, that's the right way to do it. She has the right to campaign for that if she wants, or she may just be hands off, but she's letting Alberta speak. She's giving power to the people, and that is all that you can ask from a leader. And I think she really covered herself in glory.
Brilliant
here. Yeah,
it's a shame that we find it so brilliant when all she did was common sense. It's
what leaders should be doing. Yeah, we're so used to being silenced by our leaders if they don't want to hear an uncomfortable truth. But of course, as we all know, all that does is make it, that just feeds into it. Yep, absolutely. And J Torch is Joe Stradamus. Oh yeah, I see that fantastic Pantene Pro V commercial hair in there. Yeah,
motherfucker, you got me with that one. I did not realize that was you, man.
Yeah, he's all. I assume he's resentful because he had to switch over to YouTube. But Joe, as always, Joe, we appreciate you, brother.
You're resentful of YouTube. I'm resentful of your beautiful long hair. So
yeah, I know.
We're equal.
The two of us, man. We're sitting here just fucking Joe, that guy, that long luxurious hair. Rawia Salman says, easy, remove Mark Carney from office and have him investigate for serious issues. I assume that was a reference to probably some comment above on like, how do you fix something? But
and not only that, but about the conflict of interest, because I saw a couple of comments talking about that too. So that's probably also what they were referring to.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Brenda Hemskirk says, I've always been a proud Canadian, but I do not recognize Canada anymore. The corrupt evil is trying to
crush a destiny.
Destiny. Yeah, I think I cut off a little bit, but I understand what you're saying. And
I agree with you. I don't recognize Canada either. I totally agree with you. I don't recognize. This is not the Canada I grew up in the 80s. It definitely is not.
No, I agree 100%. Clarissa says value for value, and we appreciate that, Clarissa. That's kind of how we see it. We're certainly not out here asking for money. Well, I guess we are technically, but there's always, it's just gonna, if it's important to you to have your comments out there, and I know for a lot of audience commentators it is, but others are happy to listen. And this show is we're always going to be here. There's no requirement to get any sort of membership. It's just because we're getting so many comments, we have to have a way to prioritize them. Mark says it's crazy because even this type of conversation might be considered illegal in the future if the bill is passed for online hate speech and the Liberals get to decide what is considered hate speech. And I completely agree. And this place is always going to be a bastion of free speech. I promise you, if those kind of laws get passed, we're still going to be here talking about it. We don't give a shit.
I'm an engineer in telecommunication. I will figure out how to make sure we don't get blocked. Don't worry.
Oh yeah, I'll take whatever fines or charges they want to give us. I'm not.
Hey, Mark, you belong here. You belong with us. You're not asking for money like Quebec, though.
No, they're just demanding money and not giving anything in return. We are giving some value back, I think.
You definitely belong here, bro.
Yeah, but that said, honestly, the value in this community really does come from our commentators. As Nico mentioned, we did one show once. We had Billboard Chris on. We interviewed him, and X was down that day, and so we just did it offline, and it was so bad. The energy was trash. It was nothing against Chris. Chris was a great guy, stand-up guy, total gentleman. But it's just something's missing when we don't have the audience here. It's not at all the same, and that's why this show is always going to be live. Tony says Trudeau was a small, weak little fool. Yeah, I mean, I think that's a pretty universal comment, even on people who voted for Carney. A lot of my parents, they voted for Carney, and I would say that they are, a little bit TDS, but they would have never voted for Trudeau. They definitely saw that he was a terrible, terrible leader. I've always been a very proud Canadian, but I don't recognize Canada anymore, says Brenda. The evil that has taken over our country is sickening. It's the woke thinking that's ruining our country. Hey, I'm a liberal. I'm on the left, and I completely agree. I think woke is as Elon Musk said, it's the woke mind virus. There's no other better way to think about it. It infects people's minds, and it changes your values. It changes how you see the world, and it's a completely destructive force in Western society, and I believe it needs to be completely eradicated. Now I think a lot of people think woke can't be separated from the left, and I don't agree with that. I think we can get back to classical liberalism if we want to. That is my role. That is my take on this show. That is the position that I occupy, and I know there's a lot of liberals out there like me. A lot of them are afraid to say it in public. But I can't tell you how many times in private when I have these conversations, they say, yeah, I know, I agree. I know men can't be women either. I don't think men should be allowed in women's sports. I don't think male rapists should be placed in female prisons. And I agree that the identity politics has gone crazy. But, politics are tribal and people are scared to be kicked out of the tribe. And but I know that there's a lot of us out there. And if we get enough people out there speaking truth to power, then even the cowards will come back.
Brenda, what you're saying about evil, this is where Rob and I disagree. I think it's way more problematic than he wants to believe, because I believe it's a spiritual war. There's a spiritual war going on right now, and like it or not, you're involved. So your word of evil is exactly what I see. The woke left is not, to me, is evil. What they're doing is completely evil. Being able to do this to children, the day you cross the line that you're able to fuck with children, this is evil, pure and simple. I have no sympathy for what they do at all. But we'll agree that there's a problem with the woke, but I believe the problem is spiritual. This is where the difference between you and I mostly reside, right? We will agree often on the problem, but the solution is often
not
different.
always. And as we've said, that to me, that's where the debate should be centered. That's the productive debate. But so much on the left and right, people are so divided that they won't even agree on the problems. They won't even agree. And how can you move forward? How can you move forward on that?
This is why we're here, right?
But as you said, I'm glad you brought that up because it's a good example of, a scenario where we do disagree. I think it's more related to incompetence and ideological capture, and you're more sort of the evil spiritual side, and we can
100%.
We can agree on that, and that's perfectly fine. And we still have a broad agreement that where the problems are, and that
there's a problem. Most of us agree
problems.
that there's a problem.
Absolutely.
Unless you're in the 10% of far right people or the 10% of far left people, if you're part of the 75 to 80% that's somewhere in the middle, we all see the problems. We just don't agree with the solution, but we know there's problems to be addressed. And until we have those conversations, how the fuck can we figure out what the proper solution is?
And frankly, if we're ever going to solve those problems for society, it will probably be done in spaces like this, in
100%.
places where common sense people from the left and right just come together and say, okay, fuck all the ideology, fuck all the bullshit. We're going to check that shit at the door. Let's discuss how we got here. How do we fix it? And we go back and forth. We'll talk about it. Sooner or later, we'll land on a solution that works.
Let's take Joe Stradamus to last comment, and then we should go because we are 2 hours and 30, and I gotta run, bro.
Yeah. Okay, brother. All right, I'll just very quickly just run down and just take some of the funny ones.
He's right here.
Which one? This one here?
No, Joe. No, that's Joe's ex.
Okay.
YouTube.
Trudeau did do two things I absolutely loved. First, Melania basically left a wet spot on the floor when she met him. Yeah, that's right. Second, he definitely paid proper tribute to Gord Downey, of course, the lead singer of the Tragically Hip. And I agree with you. I think I like both those things. I think that's funny.
9 years of government, and those are the only.
Yeah, if those are your two accomplishments,
as a liberal,
that's bad. And I'm just gonna I'm gonna go down because I think I can get these here in 35 seconds without. I just won't make any large comments here.
So stop talking.
Clarissa says 1 year from now, Alberta will be as Alberta will laughing as people in Ontario burn dung for heat. Hilarious. Nick says Saskatchewan has huge concerns too. I completely agree.
Yep.
Mark says, all love. I'm from BC. We just sold our home. He's moving to Alberta in June. Excellent. Great to hear that, Mark. Joe Stradamus, woke left is a mega cult from the other end of the spectrum. Again, completely agree with that. Misfit says facts don't care about your feelings, a very common thing that we will say here regularly. Clarissa says the woke mob pushed the liberals more to the right and gave the rest of the liberals a bad name, just like a man addressed with an erection in the women's washroom. Yeah, exactly right. The trans issue was the one that I started speaking out against a couple of years ago, and that sort of really opened my eyes to how deep the woke ideology has really infiltrated the left. I realized there was other issues, not just the trans stuff. It's also identity politics. It's also insane immigration policies. But the trans thing is still my bread and butter on X. That's what I mostly talk about.
It's interesting because for the liberals, what woke them up or woke a lot of liberals up like you is that whole fucking with kids. Like this is the line they won't cross.
Exactly.
On the conservative side, it was the COVID vaccine. Like this is what the consent, the fact that we couldn't even discuss it is like, okay, hey, whoa, hold on here. Why can we not talk? I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's good.
Let me ask questions. You're going to force me to put it into my body. I need to be able to ask questions.
This is what happened to most conservative. That was the issue that brought them like, hey, what the fuck's going on? And
that's the two issues that brought both of us to that political orphans.
I've only started creating content because of that, and you started creating content because
of the trans thing, and that's how we met. Yeah,
but that's how the left and the right. That's one of the difference between the right and the left is what we really the first layer. You know, the first layer that's like, whoa, okay, this is done. I'm done. Nope, this I can't take.
Yep, 100%. And on that note, guys, I think we'll call it a day here. Incredible show. We're getting so much engagement. Guys, we can't say enough how much we appreciate you. You could have been anywhere in the world today. You chose to be here with us, and we will always appreciate that. As we mentioned earlier, we do have this sort of system that we're implementing now. It is up if you want to go and check it out. I think that it starts at $2.99 just to buy us a coffee, and that will start you getting your comments priority. But again, you don't need that. If you have high quality comments, we're going to throw it on the screen and engage with you. But yeah, guys, again, thank you so much for being here. I think that's probably it for us. We will check you tomorrow, same time, same place, noon Eastern on X and YouTube.
Peace out.
Peace.